Hello and welcome to episode 251 of the FReality Podcast. 4 weeks goes by fast. We had another week gap as Rowdy was on the road, and these busy gremlins here and I did a team retreat to squash some bugs and helldivers. I feel like an alcoholic saying that. To describe how that went, I'm going for the classic Webster's definition, hazardous liability. I'm not pointing any fingers. Now, with that perfectly reasonable justification conveyed, let's get on to dishing out a hearty filling of VR jambalaya. On the table today, when we're not ghosts, we've got Apple's Asian assault for spatial computing. You'll be racing in rain and whipping through whitewater rapids in VR. Let's feed from Adam and Jose's AWE 2024 doggy bag. I'm going to stop there for a second. Rowdy, you know we're not visible, right?
We are crazy people.
We're all gray boxes.
I know we talked about in memoriam, but we're still alive.
Yeah. I'm trying. I think it's because I have the links open at the same time.
Maybe if there weren't so many links.
Splits. African style links. Those from the UK will understand. Anyway, I'm going to start over there. On the table, we've got Apple's Asian assault for spatial computing. You'll be racing in rain and whipping through whitewater rapids in VR. Let's feed a little from Adam and Jose's AWE 2024 doggy bag. We'll give you an educated guess at Palmer's second killer headset. Swing dancing with UploadVR's sizzling summer showcase. And finally, once all the blinking's done, we'll see Jose perform Cats, a live musical in the form of recent and upcoming releases. All right. With that, it's time for our crew highlights. Adam, I'm going to let you go first this time.
Ooh, okay. I guess kind of boring, kind of exciting work news. I don't know, depending on how you see it. We at Live have actually officially partnered with Meta. So for all of you who've been complaining about Meta's capture tools and stuff, we don't have anything now. Like, we still need time to be able to build stuff, but we are going to be working closer with them to get some Quest native tools. So what's out right now is mostly meant for developers and studios, people that are like super hardcore productions. It's basically an improvement to our SDK so that it works directly with Meta's presence platform stuff. So things like hand tracking, shared spatial anchors, and mixed reality. Mixed reality as in the pass-through one. Like, mixed reality has become such a confusing term now.
Oh my, yeah.
We were trying to figure out how to call, like, what to name recording a third person who's playing a mixed reality game. So it was like third person mixed reality recording, but then that's not like someone in Beat Saber. You're recording someone playing mixed reality in their room. So like so eventually we're like, live for mixed reality games, or live for immersive games. Like, one's the VR and one is they're playing MR. But yeah, it was confusing as hell for a long time. I'm like, excuse me, third person mixed reality capture is not gonna fly. I don't think that
too wordy
clears up anything. Yeah. So, but it's done. I was stressing out about all this because it was supposed to be announced in September for Connect, and they're like, "Hey, can you have this ready by the end of June?" And we're like,
"Whoa!"
So, we did it.
Wow.
And everybody was flying by the seat of their pants, including me, and and then AWE stuff came on, and I'm like, I don't know if I can do both at the same time, but we'll see. And it worked out. So, again, the update that came out is mostly going to be like developer and studio focused, is what's out now. But there's a lot of cool stuff behind the scenes that we're working on, and it's going to be easier to work directly on the Quest versus our like really janky solutions of like, maybe if they add Meta's mixed reality capture and then we can hook onto it and then we can do our thing. No, it's gonna be much easier. So Meta's depreciating their mixed reality capture stuff, and then our old janky shit, we're letting that go as well, so we can make something that's actually nice and not so janky. Yeah, is the best way I can describe it.
I don't even I remember the announcement. Must have been like 3 years ago when Meta said they were going to do their own mixed reality stuff, and I think the world basically raised its eyebrows and went, "Isn't that what Live's for?" And I'm just curious. So if you're a brand spanking new kid on the block, or maybe grandmother who just picked up a headset and you've been playing with it, and you want to show your fellow grandmothers what you've been doing, what's the easiest like composition that they can achieve with Live today? Forgetting the partnership stuff that's coming, but like if someone's brand new to Live and doesn't know how to composite themselves in a scene or do any of the cool things that Live can do, what's the easiest thing that they can hop in and on first, would you say, Adam?
They live streaming grandma, because they got streamer kit, which is just chat. Like that's probably the really most basic, easiest use case. And then from there, like our avatars and virtual cameras, because then you don't need a green screen, you don't need have to worry about lighting and all that. You can either have really cinematic, either smooth first person view or moving the cameras around in the space wherever you want, regardless of if you want to be an avatar or not. But just to have that option is nice. But I think honestly in the future, what we're planning on doing is the Quest stuff will be more casual, user friendly, and then the PC VR stuff, which isn't going away. I know people were worried, like, are you going to drop that? Like, no, we use that ourselves. We cannot drop that. That's how we make trailers. That's going to be more for like the hardcore creators, I want to say, like those that are kind of willing to, they want the highest quality shit, but realize that like it's kind of like Photoshop versus CapCut, or maybe not Photoshop, Premiere versus CapCut. You've got both do sort of the same function, but one is for the really more the higher quality, determined people versus a CapCut.
They're going to be color grading and some basic edit. Yeah, that's pretty awesome.
Yeah, it's cool news. I was going to clap, but if we clap, that screws up our audio.
Yeah. So I don't know if you saw me, but I was literally doing the same thing because it's pretty exciting. And it also shows a lot of like respect on Meta side that I wanted to like say out loud, because it goes to show that they're showing kind of like respect to the actual, the people that actually care about that side of the industry rather than just make it themselves, which is what they were doing.
I mean, this is kind of something that we're like, yeah, we already have the thing. Why didn't you just? I mean, why wasn't this sooner? But that's okay. We're just happy to be in now. And no offense to the people who worked on the Meta's MRC stuff, but nobody really liked that, developers and creators included. So I think they just had no other choice to.
Well, it's exciting for anyone who's into cinematography or budding into machinima or whatever, because you have those tools. Streamers as well. There's so many use cases. Actually, the number one use case I would think would just be developers who want to show off their own title, and being able to do so in a way that's actually conveying what's going on. That's one of the most difficult things, particularly for someone who hasn't picked up a headset yet. You really want to compel them to go buy a headset and hop into the experience and live it. See what I did there? There you go. You got a new tagline. So
that's why he's the host, guys.
That's right. Percentage of puns. That's got to be it. All right. Well, that's a cool one. Nice highlight there, Adam. It was nice seeing you. And we'll talk a little bit more about Upload's showcase later on in the show. Rowdy, you're the man on the move. What's got you moving?
Yeah, I'm back home now, but like, I spent some time in Belgium with the parents, which was really nice. I went to my sister's wedding there. It was just a good time. It was a good time to be back. The weather was horrendous. I think I saw 4 hours of sunshine or something over the entire time that I was there. But that's I'm kind of used to that. Going to Belgium, it's not very different. And then it did make me a little bit more excited again about the Euros, which are going on right now. So I did start to watch that. So the Euros is like the for the Americans out there, it's maybe more like it's like the country competition, like the World Cup, but then only in Europe. Much like you have how is it called now, the cup that is going on now in the US and in North America.
What sport?
It's a football. Well, soccer, you guys call it.
I don't know shit about
World
soccer.
Cup?
The wrong person to ask.
No, it's the World Cup. I don't know.
The World Cup is the entire world, but I mean the one that is only in North America, because
America Cup.
Yeah, America Cup.
Copa America, yeah.
Copa
B-Cup,
America.
C-Cup,
I think that's how we call it. Yeah. because that's also going on. So that always happens like roughly around the same time. And yeah, so I've been rooting for a number of countries. I've been rooting for England. I've been rooting for Belgium, of course. I was rooting for Spain as well. So it's just been nice, because I have so many people that I know from all those countries, and they always get very hyped around this time about that. So yeah, that's just been nice to have been able to do that. Unfortunately, of course, I had to leave, so it's not like I'll be able to stay there for the entire tournament because it's currently in Germany, so it's actually not that far. But yeah, it's always a great atmosphere. I think I don't really follow football or any kind of sports that much, but when you have all that atmosphere that goes around that everybody goes out, and you have these big screens that are being placed and stuff like that, it's really alive. I really like that. Just like recently,
Europeans take it seriously too.
Well, I would say so, yes, but like I've seen it here as well. Because for example, we had the Stanley Cup with for the first time in I don't know how many years you had the Edmonton Oilers reaching the Stanley Cup final. So I had been rooting for them as well, but unfortunately, they haven't taken it home. And I think it's been now like since 1993 that was the last time that a Canadian team won the Stanley Cup. So yeah, it's very unfortunate. So there was a lot of hype here, at least around that as well.
That's cool doing that. I still find it weird though. I mean, it's strange to like watch people playing a game that you're not playing yourself. Isn't that a bit awkward, isn't it?
I don't know. Yeah, it's for weirdos, right? Nobody does that. Nobody who's after a certain age should be doing that.
No, it's cool though that like the thing I suppose I would relate in terms of the difference between the hype levels. The UK, they're nuts with their sport, but like European cities just get overwhelmed by whatever the match is of the day. It doesn't really matter where you are. Whereas I feel like in the US, and maybe this is just an impression, but I feel like people have to they congregate. Like they have to come together. Whereas if you're in a European city and there's a match of something on, like no matter where you are, you can be a cafe on the edge of town, like it's everywhere. No matter where you are. So I don't know. Maybe
I think here too. It's only like I've seen only hockey. Hockey has been
does that.
Like really, you see it everywhere constantly.
Yeah.
It's maybe also the only sport that I really pay attention to in the US and America and Canada. I don't really care for baseball that much, so
yeah, that's good for t-shirt cannons. So move on to the next person here, Jose. Always on the go.
Man.
What you been up to?
On the go. Oh man, I'm just ready here to just brag on Rowdy because we won the Stanley Cup here in Florida. So, and it's really funny you mentioned
such a weird FReality, man. We're talking sports.
Oh, and I'm doubling down because unfortunately I got to side with Colombia and Copa America. Who are like, because Miami's such an interesting spot because it's all the cultures and countries. It's a big hotspot here. So football just has taken over like my ethos and sphere, and then the Stanley Cup at the same time. So like it's the hockey people and the soccer bros have just invaded the beaches here.
That you guys won it, right? This is the first time that you won the Stanley Cup ever. Yeah.
It's a big feat, we Sunshine State mastering, a cold sport. It's a big deal.
Are there ice rinks in Florida? There must be.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
Well, not outside Sim.
That'd be the worst Zamboni job ever. You're just hearing crunching gravel like as you're running. Anyway, I do like watching it. I watched my first, from what I think in my life, last year hockey game. This fucking awesome to watch. Really great to watch. Just
it's really cool.
Much energy in the crowd. So I'm all for that. I'm actually not much of like an esports guy, but I was harping earlier on the whole game thing because a lot of people like look at our nerd side of the world and they're like, how can you just watch a streamer play a game? And it's like, fuck off, man. That's exactly what you've been doing the last 30 years. So it's like no different, and just wait until AI comes in and our games look exactly like
so ready.
It's going to be no different, so bring it on. Anyway, chat, look, thanks everybody for coming along to the live cast today. I know it's been almost a month since our last live show, but appreciate that. And I'd also love to know if there's something that's got you particularly hyped up that isn't sports. If you say sports, you're going to make Zim cry. my highlight today is a little bit IRL related, actually, as well. So there is a company here called iFly, and I think it's similar to something that Adam, you told us that you had done, where you throw your body in a wind tunnel, a vertical wind tunnel, and float on very fast flowing air, essentially. But what I did was I got a weirdest birthday present from my parents, and it's one of those things where someone gifts you something, and you have to go to a place or book something. And I'm like, I'm so busy, I can't, and it's gonna expire later in the year. It's like I got to get this thing done. So last weekend, I went and did this thing, which was like a VR bolt-on experience. I was expecting it to be so hokey, but basically what it was, you jump into this tube, big vertical tube, and you're propelled in the air, and it's neat because you do learn that your arm position and your leg position, you get full control. And actually, even with my first flight, I was able to control my my horizontal position in the tube, and you could get yourself to float up a little bit more or less based on how much surface area of your body was exposed to the fans below you. So that was neat, just getting the hang of that. And then I went for what's called a high flight, where an instructor uses his or her body mass to also pull you way up in the tube, and you feel like you're free falling. And that was like, took my breath a little bit. And then after that, I did a VR experience where they have a Quest 2, and they strap it on your face. So you're literally blind, and you're hopping into this very noisy kind of tube with a motorcycle helmet on, basically. And you're, I think Adam, you had mentioned this, but it feels pretty alien to be in that situation where all of the sensors in your body are kind of like going, you're probably in danger, and you just have to kind of believe that they've got you. And then I did basically a wingsuit thing where you're flying through a canyon, and it honestly felt amazing. It honestly felt amazing because no one's basically holding you or touching you, right? He's maybe got a handle or something, but you can't really tell that anyone's got you. So you feel like you're flying through a valley, and because it was Quest 2 and not like any earlier headset, resolution was pretty good. Like I was expecting to be disappointed being a VR guy, and aside from being like, a little low resolution, it's not like, Asgard's Wrath level graphics or something. It was super fun because I felt free. I felt like it was on that Birdie or Birdly, whatever that's called, sim. But that one, you're laying on something. You can tell. You're like, I'm on a rotating massage table here, and I feel a little silly. I'm in the middle of a convention floor. That's fine. But this felt like the real deal. And the guy who owns the place was talking to me about it, and he's like, yeah, it's pretty much what real skydiving does, because he does that as well. And so it was fun, but finally kind of threw myself into it, and I'm going to go back. I'm going to go back with some friends that were coming out later in summer and go for another ride. So, because they've got a bunch of different, just like any location-based experience, you can pick from a menu of things to do. So I'll have to look through that and figure out what I'm going to do next. That's called iFly, and that was awesome. That was super fun.
So yeah, I wasn't able to show the video, but I've only been able to show the pictures because I need to upload the video somewhere in order for me to show it. But maybe I'll try and do that and see if I can show it as well.
Sure, we can cap it on to the end if I remember, which I won't. But chat, you keep me looking.
Oh, there we go. There we go. This one.
Jump, yeah.
Yeah, that's Dad.
Van Halen.
I think it's.
You can tell by his shoes.
But yeah, it is weird. Like the scariest part is you're like, you have this headset on, and you're just like being shuffled over in the dark, and you have to jump off of something eventually, so you don't know where the ledge is unless it's well. In ours, eventually, when the headset was on, it's the end of the like helicopter or no, the cliff or whatever. But still, your body's like, but this is VR. Like, it doesn't make any sense. My brain is just, I don't know what to do. I know. I'm glad that we got to have that same feeling of. You really have to trust people in that moment.
It's so cool too that the technology, because when you mentioned jump, it goes to show like how you can replicate the jump experience now on the Quest 2. You still need the flying rig, but that's kind of rad because I think Jump was using like wired headsets, right? It was like a wire, PCVR. Okay, yeah. That's
it was a pretty fun experience. And I just loved watching. There was one lady who went in, like her husband he was all totally gung-ho for it, and she was not, and she went into the tube and panicked. I mean,
video of this?
No, I wouldn't show it.
Oh,
Someone
man.
else, that wouldn't be. I
This-
totally could have got it. But when you see like that turning point in someone's face where they go from
Yeah.
I've got this, I'm brave to like I'm shitting myself. It was so fun to watch someone else just completely panic. Got out of the tube, went a second time, panicked again, and then on the third time she like got it. She was okay. But,
Three
like,
times. Good for
I was
her,
like,
though.
you are a
Yeah.
brave. Like, if that was me and I was shitting myself in front of 20 strangers or 30 strangers, like, I probably wouldn't go again. But yeah, hats off to her. She actually flew in the end. So that was super fun. If you get a chance, I know these exist all over Canada. There's like 5 or 6 locations. If you're ever up this way, then look it up. It's called iFly. It's very cool. So with that, that was my little foray into VR stroke non-VR, which was good fun. No sports for me. So we'll move into the newsreel next. So the next thing it also involves some wind. I saw this on Twitter, and I thought of all the interactions we could possibly do on in the future on this show. I could think of stream applications is inflatable VR robots. So similar to some of the stuff that you probably done and toyed with at like CES or AWE, sometimes they would like to give the person the option of actually touching. For example, I'll take the infamous internet meme, can I pet the dog? Well, you can pet the dog if the dog is an inflatable air tube. Honestly, it looks like a bunch of house cleaning robots have massive man-sized condoms on, but this, I hope, is a video that Rowdy will be able to show you in a minute. And in short, it's dynamic. So it will adjust with respect to the, oh yeah, here we go. So it's called inflatable bots, something like this. And it will show you these robots that use a fan-based experience to inflate and deflate very quickly these like bags of air. You see what I mean, though, right? It's like a giant
Yeah.
man-sized condom moving around on a robot.
I
And the
love how
idea
they
is,
blurred out the face as well of the person.
They're ashamed.
It's like I don't want to be associated with this.
God, I mean, if you already think you look stupid when you're in VR, when people are watching you, this is maybe increasing that level exponentially.
I also love the drum. The person who was playing the drum has clearly never played the drums before. It's like, just hit the balloons, just hit the balloons.
Yeah,
brilliant. Love it.
but it's like it's interesting because it's able to do curved shapes, staircases. As I said, the heads of dogs. Like it looks super hokey, but I'd imagine in a location-based experience, this would be interesting. For example, if you had enemies, right? Say you were like punching enemies and it actually connected with something. It certainly, having hot and cold temperatures, air blowing at you, rumble. This is just another one of those tools in the tool belt where this kind of application would be pretty neat. So I was going to ask you all, what if you were designing like a location-based experience to entertain the public? What would you have them do interactive with these inflatable robots?
Oh, I got one already. Ghosts.
Go ahead. Ghosts.
Yeah, like a ghost game. Like they pop out behind you. They just inflate near you. That will scare me.
Yeah,
I'm
sounds like
suspended in VR.
gotta
think-
pop them.
I'm a little biased because like this wasn't going to be something I was going to bring up in my AWE segment, so I'll say it now. But there is kind of something like this that exists that they were showcasing there. It's an
Okay.
experience called Back to Space. And what they actually do, they don't have like robots and inflatables, but they have like physical prop setups that are one-to-one with what you're looking at in VR. So say there's a control panel buttons, you're touching them in VR, but you can actually feel them in real life and like handles and stuff. So I'm like, I think stuff like that's really cool. Like if you have a whole like the set doesn't have to look good because the looking good will be in the headset, and they can do fakery with like windows and stuff. But I thought that is such a cool idea for an actual location based VR experience versus you being in I guess just a black box with your friends.
Yeah, I think the best one that Rowdy and I think both did this was running around like Wild Wild West with box props. I'm trying to remember if you were there.
I did. Well, it was that gunslinger game, right?
Gunslinger. Yeah, it was basically a gunslinger game with. Was it the first quest?
Yes, first quest.
I think it was the first quest, and it was the first game that was like local
Spatial.
LAN wireless, and it was great. I think it was 5v5 or
Something like that. Yeah.
3v3, something like that. And you had these crates, like Adam's saying, right? They didn't look very good. They were just sitting there. But you had the same thing represented in VR, and it meant that you could like run around, duck behind a physical object. You know, it really felt great. Like you had have that kind of shootout. In the example that you had experienced at AWE, Adam, were they retractable, removable elements, or were they always in the scene? Were they like?
Well, they're like they were just showing like just a small showcase of what their actual experience looked like. So it was just a piece of wall, and you're in like a little rover thing that's going through space. So it was really just a button or a wall with buttons and handles. But the full, like, I guess the full experience setup that they have is like you go into multiple rooms and like there's more, like it's like a robot you interact with. So I signed up to try it, but I don't know. It seems really cool.
It does seem cool. It kind of seems like an extension on room escapes. You know how you go into a room escape and you can like mess with the drawers and try to open a cabinet, but to do that where maybe the elements in the room change, but you don't change your physical location, or you have just 2 or 3 rooms that you step between, they could totally change the look and feel because they've got that virtual layer. And with a little bit of mechatronics, it'd be really, really fun.
I do think
cool.
that they're trying to solve 2 problems at once. One is the providing haptics in a virtual environment, and the second one is kind of like solving like moving haptics in a virtual environment, which I think are 2 very complicated things to solve. I think that they should maybe try to zone it down a little bit and make it a fixed thing, something that doesn't move around, because I think it's so hard to predict where people are going to move in a virtual space, and also especially when you have applications, people are very unpredictable, very fast sometimes with their movements. And I don't think that, having an object that drives around on the floor is something feasible at this point, at least. But like, I like the idea, for example, of like opening a window and closing a window, like fix things in space that you place. I think that there's a potential for that there, yeah, for sure.
Yeah, because it looks a little hazardous, doesn't it? I mean, you can just imagine if this was a public display event. The only thing that I thought might be safe is, remember we saw that thing where Jose was admitting that he'd love to have a waifu sitting across the table from him in a real life cafe. Well, he could just, increase or decrease the height of his waifu.
Yeah, I was
with the control of a button.
You said you were going to increase or decrease.
Increasing and decreasing in this video.
And it's funny you mentioned that, but it's I was thinking about like what can an inflatable substitute, like in terms of like once you feel something around you, but I was also thinking about, I forget what it's called, like Foley audio, where like the people that make sound effects, most of the time the instruments they use to replicate a sound effect are not the item itself. So I think like similar will be with whatever you touch virtually, I guess, because you don't have to know that you're touching a surface. If you just poke out and you feel something, you kind of already get that haptic feedback. So I do agree with what Rowdy's saying. Like having something move around seems almost unnecessary.
Okay, I've got a derivative idea here. You've both given me. All right, one user, right? But you go into a inflatable, deflatable, like modifiable bouncy castle, basically, and that's your room escape equivalent.
And that's
you
where
wander
you were going.
through it.
Because I was thinking like, oh God, Sim, don't, like, he says like, I have an ID that involves inflatable robots. It's a single user application. Bouncy castles.
Yeah, this is definitely gonna get us demonetized straight away. Right. All right. So the next one, cool. This one involves, now that we've done I'm not even gonna dare say the words in combination. All right, let's move on to fluids. All right, so this is the optical fluid flow. Now, this is shown in WebGL, and it shows, I'm going to call it a visualizer, an optical diffuser, which the moment I saw it, I thought, Apple Vision Pro users might be like, ooh, give me that. And basically what it is it shows you a air or water kind of dynamic palette. And you can see the creator here is messing with his hands, and it's just a really cool effect. So, I guess seen something like this before. It looks a little bit like the Matrix.
Is this someone in a headset interacting, and then with someone that's not in headset, or is this?
There's no VR in here.
No?
This is like a programming layer, and there's loads of people asking for it to come to VR, and it certainly reminds me of a number of VR projects. But the closest thing I've seen was, I'm forgetting his name now. I apologize. There's a Canadian dev who was dealing with mirrored portals and buckets of water in AR, in an AR experience that we showcased last year. And this is what that reminded me of. But also, in a recent Steam release, and I hope I'm not plucking one from Jose's lot, there's a title called Anandala. The same dev released Blortasia, I think, in the past, or you may have played a game called Lucid Trips. So if you're looking to have kind of a real trip out there, then you might want to go with PCVR and play Anandala. Anandala, it looks crazy. There are these creatures called blorts that look like, I was going to say Cthulhu, but it's not Cthulhu. Like an eye of, like a beholder, you know, the guys with the long stalky eyes. And so all that this is it's like a float through dynamic, just weird ass art installation for people in VR. It does look quite inviting. I would love to play this. I'm probably going to now, have to. But there's some weird stuff that the developer does with audio while they're having the player play through Anandala. So there you go.
I love great games to get high to. This
is wow.
Right up that alley.
So if you're in PCVR and you like things like, what's the Brazilian? I'm testing Rowdy's knowledge now. What's that Brazilian drug trip?
I should be. Yes, of course.
Starts ayahuasca.
Ayahuasca.
That's what this reminds me of.
That one was interesting too, and kind of scary at parts.
Yeah.
Ayahuasca. Well, yeah, I mean, we're talking about the virtual experience. I'm sure the real experience is even more treacherous. So that's that. So that's a little trip to start us off down the right lane for VR today. Another thing I wanted to pick up on as a race nut, I saw some news. Tyriel Wood and I have a long-standing Assetto Corsa love, and I saw him tweet out about something we've been waiting for since we heard about Assetto Corsa Competizione, which is Assetto Corsa Evo, which is driving simulation evolved. It's by Kunos, the same company who developed the original Assetto Corsa, and it's going to cross a whole number of different classes of vehicle. And the important thing here is that they're saying VR and triple screen support have become first-class features, and the new mathematical model meticulously simulates asphalt performance and different dynamic weather conditions. So one of the biggest gripes about Assetto Corsa, the first game, which you can still get for like $2 or $3 on Steam sale, and modded up the wazoo to make it look like a real game, that was back in 2014. This next iteration looks like equivalently Assetto Corsa 2. So it's Assetto Corsa Evo. It's looking to come out. They've got a rain and weather system, which is great to see. We're just hoping that mod support comes. So Kunos, don't let us down. Very excited to see what that brings us. You got to drag me back from GT7 though. That's gonna be a high bar. We'll see if they can do it. Okay. Speaking of driving, I thought I would show another little bit from the web from China. And in Beijing, they've actually got driving centers where they now mandate VR driving experience before getting on the real road. And I think maybe 5 or 6 years ago, I was talking about that on this podcast. And so seeing it in real life now is pretty amazing. So they've literally got driving schools where they've got these kind of I'll call them screen pods. So what you would usually see in like a racing sim. And then they graduate users to a headset experience where they have to pass their driving test essentially before they're out on the streets with real cars. I think this is so smart. So hopefully we'll be able to see that there in a minute too. What do you guys think about that? The use of VR in driving sims. So
I love the idea of using VR. Have you guys ever seen the US ones, like the simulators for? Yeah, oh yeah.
No, I did not know it was
actually,
here.
That's actually something that I actually learned researching the history of VR. But like simulators, like when cars were invented, they will actually have machines like with TVs that show you people like how to drive. I'll find a video and show it to Rowdy while we're talking about it, because it's actually pretty cool stuff. It's like this is like pretty much the United States created like the early simulator for driving.
I don't know. Like I'm still a little bit like, you know, the first thing you do when you get into a car and you have pedestrians on the road is like, ooh, you know, pedestrian, 12 points. You know, like that's at least what I would do. Like anyone who goes in GTA 6 for the first time, you know, the first car you see is the first car you steal, right? So I am wondering how those systems like go around that kind of stuff. Is it just like, you know, we're not gonna do that. We're not gonna, you know, it's just gonna turn black, or like
It's a locational thing, right? So obviously, if you do poorly there, you're gonna fail your driving. You know, moving on to whatever the next step is.
But I mean,
so, like,
the training when like, you know, like you know, it's late in the afternoon. Everybody has done their driving tests, and you know, like the instructor was feeling a little bit bored. You know,
I mean, then let them go to town. If they're not testing, then like, I guess who cares?
It's like, and so you're saying that the kind of blend between a video game and obviously the simulation for driving. You know what? In the UK, when I was moving from Ireland to the UK, I don't know, maybe 2006 or so, the testing in the UK at that time was actually a video feed where you'd get a mouse, and it was like computer-based testing, but you'd get a picture and it would show a video scene of, you know, like you're going along a busy street, bunch of cars parked, and then you knew something was going to happen. And like a little kid was going to run out or whatever, and they'd go into the blind spot and then they'd come out in front of you. And you're supposed to click the mouse the second you know you need to react. So like the second something in the scene is off, you click. And so it's kind of like quick time events,
right?
But training you for showing that you've got the reactions needed to go and drive on a real road. So that was the first kind of virtualization layer that I remember. But
what happened if you didn't click?
It would sadly, it would just show the car slowing down in front of the little girl. So there was never a negative scene. Like, I wish it would have just spliced into those alcohol ads from Ireland where like the car flips and takes out a whole school of like birthday kids and the mom's screaming. And then the dad is like nestling the broken corpse of his child. Yeah.
I was not able to find a video, but I sent Rowdy a picture of it. But yeah, the Etna drive trainer. And it's exactly what you imagine. It's like a little it looks like an arcade racing machine, but this is like early training tools. Yeah.
Comes to, like, if you have a hard time differentiating, like, yeah, we all know how to drive and we play GTA, but we don't do the GTA things in real life. I feel like if you have a hard time differentiating real life from video games, that's a different problem.
Yeah.
No, but what I'm saying is, like, if you gamify the experience, for some people it might become a harder time to dissociate that again.
So I found a video actually.
Well, I mean,
like how valuable do we think, like, for example, do we think that these kind of games can replace real life experience?
Yes.
I don't think
100%.
Wow,
it's going to require a lot of technology, but absolutely, I think
that looks really close. That looks really, really close to the Beijing simulators. That
this is 1940s, so I think that there's a way to train people. I think that there's not a way to.
No, I think that I'm not. That's not what I'm saying. I'm saying you can train people, but would you replace real life experience with only virtual training or only gamified experience?
No, I think, but I think that's unnecessary. I think that there's stair steps, like you're not going to have, like, for example, if you're learning how to skydive, I think doing it in a simulator a few times, you like Zim mentioned, the lady who got afraid 3 times, you don't want that person to have any of those 3 big fears on the field, right?
Yeah.
So you create the
Freeze.
break of fear through virtual spaces, and
Right, but it
before
comes with a whole host of new kind of problems, right? Because you I've heard, for example, from pilots that have gone through the entire experience of like doing virtual training,
man.
you know, spent thousands or $100,000s of dollars for their education, and the first time they get into a plane and fly a plane, they're like, I can't do this. Just
exactly.
scared shitless.
Yeah.
Like and that's what I mean. Like, you know, how, like, what about a doctor? You know, who goes through all of the virtual training for surgical,
Never touching a corpse.
never touched a corpse, and then all of a sudden it's like, oh, I can't stand real life.
That's a crazy thing. I would never trust anybody. I think that you should learn virtually first, then definitely you want to have an in-field.
I don't think you can replace, like, you need to, like, for example, your first year in medical school, you're exposed to a corpse. Why do they do that? Why do they do that? They do that to make sure that you're aware of like these kind of things, that you're working on this kind of stuff. And I don't think it's a good idea to, for example, do 4 years of virtual training and then go to the real
I think they can go side by side, because what if you are exposed to like a virtual corpse, like a high fidelity, you can't tell the difference, it's a real corpse, and you still get the same reaction. I think that there is desensitivity. There's desensitivity. And to answer your question about training, I've met military operators who do train in these machines. And and not to sound insensitive, but there have been like hijackings of airplanes, and they have learned these skills on virtual systems. Again, like there's a decentralization of education because of these schools.
There's definitely a place for that. But I'm saying that if we can provide people with real life experiences, we should provide them.
100%.
There is no way. Like you can make a surgical simulator as gruesome as possible, but the moment that you get like some splatter on your shirt or on your whatever it is, that is different. That, I'm telling you, that is different.
Yeah. I just imagined you stabbing the second you get into the simulator, you're just gamifying it. That's what I was imagining. But I also remembered. Do you remember that? Do you remember that rat, Rowdy? Like ages ago, it was this like spongy looking virtual rat.
Yeah.
I remember you showed it one of these podcasts like 4 years ago. It's never left my mind. But like the idea that you could have quite a realistic simulation of the thing, but you'll never, be able to smell the formaldehyde or whatever, right? Like there's certain elements, just like the G-forces in a car, right? When you're simulating a car. So we're way, way away from a full dive, tap myself into the Matrix experience where you can't discern the difference. Yeah. And I do agree that like it needs this kind of almost like a sawtooth pattern between like real and virtual to help contain and perhaps make the roads safer, not have crazy, first-time drivers out there. But I still remember the first time I got on the road, it was with a military driving instructor. And he's like, right, get in the car, turned it on, right, drive around this track. Okay, now we're on the road. And I'm like, fuck, I'm driving. And like, shit, I'm only, whatever, I was 17, 18. And we were just, we did a 40-minute lap. I still remember, like around this big ring around the town and everything. And I was fine. But like, I if you would have asked me to do that, I would have said no. Like I would not have agreed to go drive on the road with people I could kill with the car. You know what I mean? Like
exactly.
Not straight away.
I truly believe it should be the goal, though. I as much as I agree with that, we should saw it with real training. I do think that it should be the goal to replace physical training at some point. I think there's like a such a big value. Like I actually. At EWE, I was watching a machine robotics simulator. So you actually are able to experiment and toy around with robotics without actually physically having the robotics. So you actually can do like the Arduino programming. You can actually do the debugging, and it's all in a virtual sandbox. And I'm like thinking to myself, like, man, most of these Arduinos are like, they're $30-$40, but what if you're like a 12-year-old with no access to, the internet like that? Or you can purchase things. I think it's cool that, these tools exist.
Got it. Sorry, I just saw a name pop up in chat, and I have to commend. Beat Saberita is the coolest, most obvious name for. I'm guessing you do Beat Saber content.
Oh,
That is
dude.
just so
Whoa.
obvious. What a cool name.
You don't know Beat
Great wiggle.
Saberita?
No. It's
Oh,
the first
dude,
time I've
so
seen the name.
Beat Saberita,
Great name.
huge content creator, does like really high polished Beat Saber content creation. Definitely
Very
follow
good
Beat Saberita. Yeah.
When you've got a name that like says it so obviously, I've got a real thing for names, having gone through naming 3 kids. But like, oh my god, let alone FReality. Holy shit! Like when you spend months of your
Zim
life,
is just regretting that he didn't name one of his kids Beat Saberita.
It's not too late.
Yeah, I got 2 daughters. We could still swap the one who's only 3. No one will know.
But except the problem is anyone not in VR will be like, is her name Saberita, and why do you want to beat her?
Oh god, we've covered all these wonderful themes. Right, let's move on to the next one. Dune, a new Dune buggy style racer is coming from the company Exocus VR. Now they've done a few other kind of racing ones. They did that weird Z race one, which was like you were in this tunnel. I wasn't a huge fan of it, but they obviously showed that they had the capability for VR. So Exo Cars is a new racer that shows kind of full like sprung physics, and I won't say soft body physics, but a nice physics engine for a car-based racer. It looks like it's going to be PC VR to start. It may have multiplayer, and I was begging him for VR head turn, which is something we've wanted any racing game to do, but looks really like quite an exciting one. I think it's also going to be coming to PSVR2 at some point. So this one looks like a nice little project. One for hammering around a dirt course or a beach track or something. Looks kind of neat. I'm keen to see where they go with this one. So
I love the dirt physics, like hitting the screen.
That looks like a fun way to learn how to drive. If it's like that, sign me up.
I'm not a sim racing person, but I do like dune buggies. I feel like this could actually be something a non-sim person might be. Like
that fits into like the Mario Kart category just as easily as kind of being a half sim too. So as long as you like kind of speed and whipping around a track with other AI or real competitors, then why wouldn't you pick it up? Speaking of speed, we've got another one, and I saw Adam was toying with this one. There's a new DLC for Kayak VR. So Sachka Valley in Slovenia. Slovenia is a gorgeous country, by the way. I went there once with my wife. It's incredible. Brings whitewater rafting and gorgeous surroundings to an already good-looking game. I better turn it over to Adam for your thoughts, having toyed around with this.
Love it. Like the one thing that makes Kayak VR special too is the little details they add to it. Like I don't want to spoil too much, but in my tweet I kind of did. There's one point where we come across like a mother and her cubs, and she like charges at the kayak, and I'm like, do I keep paddling? Like what can she come after me? But it's cool, and I like that they added rapids. Like I've been, because of Kayak VR. Fun fact that I discovered I loved kayaking, and then I was like, I should probably learn to swim if I'm gonna love kayaking. So that started the whole thing. But now that we've been doing it, my husband and I, more often, I'm like, I wonder if like rapids is something we could do. I don't think I'm ready for rapids in real life yet, or at least not here, because there's like waterfalls and stuff you go down, and I'm like, I don't know, maybe I need more time. But I do like that they added that, and they added you can see in the trailer too, an actual body, because before it was just the floating paddle, which I kind of like better, to be honest. But there's a toggle for you to turn it off and on. But the reason they added it is because they're going to be adding 2-player multiplayer soon to Kayak VR, which would be really, really nice. Like that's
that sounds incredible. It sounds super relaxing to just like go around an island, paddling away, chatting, and just looking at there's times, in that map, I forget what it was. It was like Barbados or something, or maybe it was like
Island one, right?
The island one. Thank you. Let's just dumb it down, make it easier. So the one where you're going through the middle of the island, the split between the two kind of rocky bits, but it's just so serene, and you like feel at peace. It's like a really nice way just to get tranquil. But to do that with a friend or your partner, your roommate, the friend across the globe, and just hang out and chat in that environment sounds idyllic. It really sounds great. So I did not know that's why they brought the inverse kinematics, but it makes total sense, right? To have the IK model in there. So, people are floating torsos. And I guess they don't have to worry about leg support because we don't get to see the legs anyway.
Yeah.
Problem solved.
Problem solved. That's it. Just stick people in kayaks. All of our virtual worlds It's like what was the espionage game that we had a little while back?
The shootery kayak game.
End Dreams. Yeah.
Phantom, no.
Phantom Ops? Yeah, Phantom Ops.
Is it? Yeah.
Yeah, Phantom Ops. So that's kind of almost the Splinter Cell one, but like everywhere you go, infiltrating, the enemy base, it's all in a kayak, and you're like, who designed this base that you allowed a kayak to just float in here? It was a bit silly, but it's funny you talk about the bears, Adam. I had my own bear encounter.
Oh God.
Which I won't spoil necessarily, but there are bears in Les Stroud's The Survivor Man VR The Descent. So you start off, I thought I was going to climb a mountain. Nope, you start basically from a helicopter crash and you get taught like lessons of how to survive in the wilderness as you descend this mountain. And it takes you through a whole bunch of different kind of fun things. I do not recommend this game. I'm just going to say it was only about like an hour and 40 minutes of contact time. So it's quite a short experience. It's rough in places, but the audience got a laugh out of it. And in a segment of it, there's a kayaking bit. And it's not as good as Kayak VR by miles, but it was still fun to kind of do some kayaking, maybe get chased by a bear. Like there were some fun bits there. And if I learned anything survival wise, it's if you find a busted crate, you can make snowshoes out of that, and that way you don't have to expend so much stamina when you're walking through deep snow. But
convenient.
There were some
crates left out in the wilderness. Okay, I'll remember that.
Speaking of convenience, the game has you dismantle the governing compass from the helicopter and then walk with it. I'm like, there's no way in hell I could take a machined piece of metal out of a broken helicopter. Like that would never happen. There's so many would never happen moments in this, and which is why I think it's a bit of a joke when it comes to teaching you survival skills.
It's unfortunate.
It's unfortunate because it misses the mark on what it's trying to do, number one. But
why is there so much blood in your kayak?
Yeah, that's I think that's supposed to be rust, but
okay.
Yeah. So that was Les Stroud's little title. That's available on a few different platforms. With that, let's also talk about Kayak VR. I was not so impressed on PSVR2, but this new update is on PSVR2. If you happen to be like me and you prefer the PC VR part, well, you don't have to wait too long to get it in a PSVR2 headset anyway, because since our last podcast, they did announce, which is old news now, the PlayStation VR2 PC adapter. So it's actually an adapter. It's going to be $60 and all your local equivalents. And the thing looks like a breakout box. It actually looks like a very familiar breakout box. It almost looks like they took it off of the PSVR 1, which of course is why we have the PSVR 1 in the thumbnail. There you go. There's the reason. But what are your thoughts about this solution? I'm most curious about Jose, your impression of this. Is this Sony saying we give up? Is this great news?
I'm bummed out about it, right? Because I'm excited that it exists, but I'm also bummed out that it does kind of show that they're having trouble selling or getting rid of so many old inventory. But with that said, there is broken functionality. Like I think that there's certain features that you can only get on the PS5 version. So I think that they are still trying to find incentives to make people want to use this on the PS5, but I really have to just try it first. I think the price makes sense. I think it should have existed in the first place. I think that I think it is corrupted hardware by making it specifically for the PS5 in the first place, and they're reverting that decision should have even been made. So
yeah, it was definitely a kick to the cojones, I'd say, because not having face rumble, not having eye tracking, right? Like anyone who is like, ooh, OLED panel and VRChat, for example, so that my Japanese compatriot can come touch my face. Like those things are not going to happen now, which is a real shame. And then
and I would say, and my thought on that is officially maybe, because I don't see why any of those physical hardware components won't be able to be turned on by some modder or some software edit. Yeah,
that's what I was curious about. Is like, could they? Like, could it get support? Because remember when I don't know if it was the DualShock or the DualSense, which was the first one, didn't originally have haptic feedback, and then they eventually patched it through Steam at some point, and now it's like the best gaming controller you can get connected to a PC. Maybe arguably, maybe there's a better one out there, but for me, that's certainly my opinion. But is this something that you would be thinking to purchase? So, anyone with a PSV, because I'm just curious, because for me, it's funny. They basically firmware updated my headset so that I could no longer use it with PC. And now they're giving me the same thing back, but I have to pay $60 to connect the dongle that I don't particularly like the look of. I mean, who cares? It's a dongle, right? But it's poorly engineered, is my opinion. And then
user Eric Hartley in the chat stated something that I really wanted to highlight. It seems they just don't have the API available for PC to support those features. It could come later or could be hacked in for sure. I actually am of that side. It may be just the APIs or like there's no games that would support this.
Yeah.
Maybe that is where Steam Link comes in. Maybe Valve says, hey, if you use it, because you don't need Steam VR technically for this adapter, it'll run OpenXR. So maybe that's Steam's involvement there. Then Steam VR says, hey, you run this on Steam, you get those features enabled.
Yeah, it's a cool win for anybody who, and there's a big population of people out there who are mainly console warriors, who maybe have a PC and are like, I'm not buying a second VR headset. I just want games, right? I just want games. And if you just want games, PSVR2 is still arguably, and again, in my opinion, the best for that purpose, for that use case, like for full fat games, like not kind of tech demos and short VR experiences. If you're more open to indie stuff, then of course Quest is probably your best option at the minute. But like being able to come and buy an adapter and plug it into your PC, if you've already got a gaming PC, it's kind of like a double win. Then you can use it in that context. And I think people will find, like I was using it, it's a really great monitor replacement, even when you use it without the VR features. Like to sit down in an OLED display that's like having a 90-inch TV in front of you, I was finding, again, back to Helldivers, I was finding that it was a really great gaming monitor to wear on my face while I was playing. And it didn't have rumble, didn't have any of the other special features, right? And it was still great. Would I pay $60 for that experience? I would. No problem. Will I buy this thing? I don't know. I still haven't made my mind up. I think I'm going to wait. But Adam, how about you? What's your thoughts about PSVR2 and connecting it to a PC? Is that just a total waste of time for you, given you've already got a preferred PC headset?
Yeah, to be completely honest, I think it's such a almost like a desperation cry for help money, because I feel like the audience that would use this is so small. Like, granted, we are VR people, and everyone in chat's probably a VR person, but like a normal gamer who probably bought the PSVR2 is, I don't think, is probably had any intentions of ever bringing it over to PC. So I feel like it's such a small number of people that would actually buy this adapter, or that would, like, they just really suddenly the PSVR2 was their eye-opening VR moment where they suddenly got really hardcore into VR in general. Like, I feel like that population is just so small. Like, either we're like us, so maybe we have multiple headsets because we already are in the VR space and we love it, or you kind of bought the PSVR2 as a one-off, like, it's interesting, I've heard of this thing called VR and I have a console. I don't know, it's strange.
The only open door that I'm thinking there is, and this is going back a number of years, so many of you might not know this name, but we used to have this conundrum between Vive and Rift, where, Rift Store would get a game from Other Suns or Lone Echo or something, and people with a Vive would be like, well, I want to play that. So a utility came out called Revive, which allowed, I'll call it kind of cross-platform compatibility. And my immediate thought is, okay, Half-Life Alyx is great and all, but the team who's actually pumping more money in is kind of meta at the moment, and they've got everybody, wanting to come to the honeypot and get Quest support. So I do wonder if at least their back catalog of PC, I'll call them Rift titles, could find their way into support with the headset and controllers via this adapter. So Revive bridging to PC adapter. Is there any reason why that combination wouldn't work? I think it would, right?
Yeah, I think Revive would just convert the game into OpenXR, and then the rest is handled by the XR. Yeah, I don't see why it would. I think it would work now. If this is native to OpenXR, yeah.
Yeah, playing Lone Echo with like inky black space in that headset sounds quite compelling to me.
If I
I'd
were
go
to
back and
think
revisit.
of, if I were, and Zim, you'll like this. The only thing I could think of that could make the PSVR2 headsets fly off the shelves is if, and I know Sony ain't gonna even consider that, is if they port GT to PCVR. If they think that Gran Turismo and they bring it to PCVR with like all amped up graphics and do something that the PS5 can't do, and then they turn into a real simulator, they'll destroy Arcedo Corsa and all these guys pretty easily.
Yeah. I mean, I don't know. It's interesting. I just don't know how far Sony's going to go with it. Like they're clearly playing they're playing the game. So let's see what direction it goes. Rowdy, did you have any thoughts on the VR2 adapter?
I mean, not particularly, since I don't own a PlayStation at the moment. I do think, the strength of the PlayStation comes from its own games rather than the Steam store. I don't think people would buy a PlayStation VR headset to play on the Steam store. That being said, though, I do think that it's very competitively priced. So it's basically like the price of a game would then get access. So I think that's a little bit the thing they have in mind, is like, I don't think that their intention is really to take off market share from, the Rift or from the Quest or from, any other PC related headset. But I think it's more like it's a gesture towards their audience.
Yeah, it's got to be a response to last year's pressure, because last year's pressure was, which I still think is feckin' out of whack, is there's not enough games. Your library is not strong enough. There's not enough games. And so the immediate launch plan from that point is, what's the least expensive response to this that we can do without having to fund 10 different AAA titles? It's just build a bridge. And so that's what they've done. They built a bridge to PC, and they're like, you can now have our library plus your home library, provided you've got the hardware at home. So it's kind of a, all right, shut up, we're going to give you what you wanted, right? That is my opinion. And it's like a year in development. It's a really simple breakout box. I don't know. It's okay. Nothing to get too excited about, I suppose. Next thing, a little bit of news there, and I don't know if this is news. This is just a segue to another point. But VRChat is 30% off. Well, 30% off of all of their staff, unfortunately. So they went through some layoffs, and so that's big for any company, right? 30% is a pretty heavy cut. They're obviously trying to stay alive, and I think that's important. I think they're actually, VRChat is, if not the social VR place to be, I think they've led the space and they've managed to survive this long. I think it's important that they find a way to keep going. I'm saying this because, well, in part, I sold off my Quest Pro to a VRChat user who was very, very keen to have the facial tracking and all that, like we were kind of joking about and poking fun at earlier. But honestly, in readying for sale, I was testing those features out, and I was like, you know how compelling it is to see my speech sync up perfectly with my avatar? I thought it would be like something I would just like be okay to not have. I almost not sold the headset as a result of how impressed I was by that. And I know we've said this before, Quest 3 missed out doing eye tracking. I think whatever headset is going to be the next step up, like a Quest 4, has to have eye and face tracking. Like it's necessary for social interaction, is my opinion of how important that technology is. Jose, you tend to kind of have a big interest in this space, and not just the waifu stuff, but like seriously, what's your thought on eye and facial tracking in the next generation of VR hardware? Like,
yeah, it's required for spatial presence. I think that's really why VRChat users tend to prefer that stuff, because that's the main, heart and soul of that platform, which is the ability for you to connect with people on a virtual space, and that requires the ability to have analog control with the your physical ability. So yeah, I think it's incredibly important. I think that they did, as you mentioned, drop the ball with the Quest 3 not having any of those features. I think it's a pricing issue. It's just they're trying to strike the balance. So
Yeah.
I don't know. The Quest 3 for me felt like a very underpowered headset for that reason.
Yeah, it felt like almost like a spacing headset. Like that was the one key thing that it was missing, and it was very weird to have their competitor come out with a headset with it when they didn't have it. And it's like, but you're Facebook, you're Meta, you care about data. Why don't you care about the eye tracking? Like it was maybe a little dicey, and they decided to drop it. As you said, it had to be a price call. But it seems like it's a necessity. Question is there a space though for a headset that's lower price, lower cost 2 years from now? 2 years from now, no face tracking, no eye tracking, or is it getting to the point where, like almost like a thumb unlock for your phone? Like it's a must-have feature. Rowdy and Adam, what are your takes on that? Like this biometric side of VR that's coming at us.
I mean, I think honestly, I think the next headset will probably have it because like the Quest 3's big thing was color pass through, mixed reality started taking off. I feel like the next iteration, Quest 4, whatever, will be like, oh, built-in, face and eye tracking. And I feel like, especially because the most successful games and apps on the platform are socially based. Granted, Gorilla Tag's one of them, and you're not a human, so I don't know if that's the greatest example, but assuming that other games and apps in the future are also going to take a similar model of social, multiplayer experiences, I feel like it just makes sense to be able to have that. And that can be the big selling point. Is like, oh, look, now, you've got the mixed reality of the Quest 3, but our new latest and greatest thing is built-in face track. Because I have I mean, I love this stuff, but I just hate the peripherals. Like I've got the Vive face tracker, and I gotta plug that into the frunk and align it properly. So just having that built in will, I think, make all the difference. It's just how much will that cost?
Do you think they held back? Because you just exposed something in my brain that I hadn't connected the dots on before, which is if Horizon wasn't ready yet, and the cost was going to anyway push them into subsidizing the equipment, it seems like, why would we expose our social platform and give a boost to the competing platform, the leading platform, at this moment in time? Why don't we save it for a big feature update, and it instead then helps add wind to the sails for Quest 4 equivalently? Yeah, that makes total sense to me, Adam.
I was with you, but you lost me at the end. I do agree that there was a pricing versus the technology could muster at the moment. And I think what happened is when you think of video games, when a sense of presence, especially when it comes to video games specifically, games tend to create their own sense of presence. Like when you think of Nintendo games, they don't allow voice chat. They have, hand gestures and silly things like that. And I think that for games, you can get away with that. But the reason the Quest Pro specifically had these sense of presence features were because it's dictated by also the software that these headsets are adopted for, which is collaborative work, not games or experiences. And I think it's just the reality of the market and the pricing. I think that, if a Quest 4 doesn't come out with eye tracking or basic, mouth inputs, I think they're just trying to make the price as low as possible. I think that when you look at the Quest 2, that's why their mapping of mouth to microphone has gotten somewhat better, but it's not really tracking your mouth. It's all of that just to lower costs. Yeah.
I think for a lot of these features, they're more like, like silent upgrades, where you have these kind of things that get introduced that enhance the user experience to a certain level, but not to such a level that you think like, oh wow, this is a game changer, But it is all these like small little upgrades accumulated over time that provide a gradual increase in user experience. And I think that a lot of these things like face tracking, eye tracking, all of these kind of things that record biometrics are things that are welcome additions, but they don't really change the user experience at this point, up until we have the tools available for developers to really start working and integrating these tools into their day-to-day experiences, whether that are games or whether it's for work. it is mainly about like providing those tools and making sure that they're there, rather than them themselves like changing the experience. I think.
Yeah, and the cost to bring them in right now
it's too high.
Doesn't give. Yeah. So but what I was seeing through that was really interesting was like there's a clear niche of VRChat users who want the maximum of that experience. They want to track every part of their body. They want their face, and they want to get as close to human connection as they can. And it's just a really interesting, like, wild west right now in that space. So this leads me into, this is the segue I was talking about. Why did Zim sell off that headset? Well, it was to afford to get back into something, thanks to Adam, actually. and Adam, it is a tweet that you put out recently where you said, hey, guess what, everybody? Meta's smart glasses are going to have an extended recording of 3 minutes. Yeah. And the difference between 1 minute and 3 minutes is actually dramatic. Like, that's the difference between I can show you something and then it gets cut off halfway and like capturing a full family moment. Like, that's the difference between those two for my eyes. And as a creator as well, 3 minutes feels like they've pooled enough information that they're like, how do we allow people to maximize their capture without, filling up the glasses and causing them to have frustration? So I think this new 3 minute limit, first off, thank you for pointing it out. But I went for another set. So I am now back in it.
Or what did you get?
It took me a lot of thinking over this. So what I ended up going for was the Polaroid, because Polaroid lenses for me are very important for cutting down light when I'm driving. I've got blue eyes. I'm quite sensitive to the amount of light. And then I went for the Gradient. So the Gradient is really neat because it means I can look at monitors, I can look at keyboard and stuff with feeling like I'm wearing normal glasses. But when I'm driving or I'm out and about walking, the sun really gets cut down. They're beautiful. They're definitely the right pick for me. The only thing that I will caveat is that if you go for a Polaroid lens, and I knew this going in, depending on the orientation of the Polaroid filter and a monitor, you will shutter to black certain devices, certain monitor, your TV or whatever. I'm lucky in that all the monitors in my house bar one are currently oriented so they work. Otherwise, you're like it just makes it, you'd have to move the orientation. So just mind that, but it's a perfect set for me. And getting into the AI stuff it's silly how different this is 6 months later. Like, I bought into this in October last year, had them for a month. Mine had a defect where it was cutting my ear, so I got rid of them because I just couldn't keep cutting my ear on because of the plastic. But the AI addition to that is eerily cool now. It's so useful to be able to ask it stuff and actually have it intelligently respond. They've certainly reduced also the response time. Before it was awkward. Now we're down to sub-awkward. It's like just long enough that you're like, is it going to respond? And then it does. And you're like, okay, I'm just comfortable with that length. Before, I was not comfortable with the length it took to respond. So I'm going to take him for a test drive this coming holiday. I'm going down to the US to celebrate July 4th with some family, and we're going to see how they do. So I'm going to take a page out of your book. Thanks, Adam, for costing me money.
Welcome back, Sim.
Touché, So that's good. I would also say that there is a new set of flavors of this coming out. Meta also have done some restructuring internally to basically help them give more energy within the company to their Ray-Ban Meta Wayfarer part, which has been doing very, very well for them. And so they've got their Metaverse division, and then they've got their smart glasses division now, which is neat. It resulted in some small number of layoffs for them, senior management side, but that was interesting to see as well as a shareholder, interested party, and a believer that Meta is really the next Microsoft. So interesting to see. I'll give you my feedback over time on that one. Don't expect anything as crazy as what Adam gets up to on her holidays. That's for sure. All right. With that, another very important update for those of you who don't like being nauseous all the time with your Quest 3. I would just wanted to mention that V66 of their operating system tackled the warping update. I still don't have it. What Meta does in their rollout plan is they roll out to various segments, and it's awkward. You can't ever tell when you're going to get the update. Sometimes you have the option to force a download, but oftentimes you have to go through some trickery if you really want the latest and greatest. But V66 brings a warping fix, massively changing the distortion based on some of their, I presume, some machine learning and all the data that they've absorbed over time, which is a pretty incredible feat. And yet another one of these iterative additions that puts them, again, ahead of competition, just inch by inch, like what Rowdy was just saying. And that's very important in this industry, that you continue to kind of lay out updates, additions, and things that your users will appreciate. This one is really important. I remember when they first laid out, I don't know if you remember, Rowdy, in the early Rift days, I'm talking cabled VR headset time, when they first had pass-through cameras on Rift headsets. Is that Rift S? I can't remember. And it was bad. It was like everything was totally distorted, and you'd put your fist through a desk. Like it was not good back then. Everything felt like it was like you're drunk, that's literally how it felt. So I welcome this change. But again, whenever I see one company do it, then it's like, okay, well, how's everyone else catching up to this? Like, I don't want a monopoly sitting out here. I really don't. Competition is important. So it's interesting to see the comparison now between particularly Apple versus Meta in those. One other piece about distortion I wanted to talk about was, did you all see this on your socials? Max Mustard, sneaky 90% off code. Did you all see that?
A trend. Other games started doing that too after the Max Mustard thing, and it's like, I don't know. It's kind of
icky.
Yeah,
it feels icky. Yep, it feels icky. So
I'm glad you said that. I was trying to keep that to myself, and you said it.
No,
yeah.
But it's like okay, take your and no disrespect to the Max Mustard devs or anything, but take your B class game and push it on everybody by throwing out like a 90% off discount code. It feels like when I was in Tottenham Court Road negotiating a laptop, and I had all these guys trying to push they're like, oh, I'll take $200 off, I'll take 400 quid off, whatever it was at the time. But it felt a little bit pushy and a little bit backhanded. And also it's like, it reminds me of Quest leak, where it was like, okay, you guys clearly leaked this. Like it just felt disingenuous to some degree. And then the way that they marketed afterwards, like, hey, we're better than Beat Saber. It's like, yeah, but that's because you gave your game away for free.
All the leaderboard. Yeah, I do have some backstory actually on this, interesting enough. So Impact Reality was kind of behind this. They weren't the ones that recommended 90% off, though. That was all,
effective strategy. I'm not gonna knock that. It just doesn't come off right.
What happened was this Max Mustard code was actually in Richie's Plank experience in a weird, you'd have to move the camera in a strange way, and somebody found it, and then they posted it everywhere. So that part was Impact Reality's plan, but the 90%, they were like, that wasn't our recommendation. I don't know where they got. And then once they started posting about look how great we're doing on the leaderboard, or the top selling games, and other games kind of started doing that. They're like, look, us too. But it's like, yeah, but it's because you're 90% off. Not saying they're bad games, but it's not a true.
It's not a true win.
Yeah.
It's an SEO hack. It's an SEO hack.
Yeah.
Yeah, because by pushing up to the leaderboard, people will buy it. Then you go, you end the sale, and then you're still on the top of the leaderboard.
And it's funny because that fire, I hope that fire burns out and that we don't keep seeing it repeated. That said, I know there's gamers out there with tight wallets that are saying, Zim, let me have my 90% off, But TikTok. You know who else did this? Do you guys remember Avatar? When Avatar got sold, the core boxed edition was a Blu-ray and a DVD. No one wanted the feckin' DVD who had a Blu-ray. Why are you giving me this extra disc? But it was so they could cite the numbers. They're like, oh, it's the most Blu-ray sales and the most. It's the same bloody thing. It's a number. It's a stat.
In music, it's merch. For music, song sales are attached to merch, so they give off the merch. Thus, that applies to music sales.
Yeah.
So that's how people get into like the Billboard Top 100 with like a crappy song.
Right. Yeah. And sometimes you do question this. So yeah, in the end of the day, I just say statistics are always fun.
It's like me being the #1 Beat Saber player in the world. Remember that?
Rowdy.
Oh,
still on.
No. Remind me.
That was before the game got released.
Right. Yes, I remember. You were on top.
There were like 7 people or something who had access, I think. And I just wanted the top score on all of the tracks. There were like 6 tracks or something.
You should so put that in your Twitter profile. You really should. Yeah. LinkedIn
OG
top
#1
Beat Saber player.
#1 Beat Saber player back in.
But if you earn that, I mean, it's cool to be on the top of the world that way. Like
there were 7 people.
Imagine.
Like, you know, that's like that's like my parents saying that I'm their favorite son. You know, they only have one. Like,
yeah. That's what I always say to my son. I'm like, you're my favorite son, and then I turn around. I'm like, but you're also my worst son. I hate you. I hate you the most of all my sons.
Keep them humble.
That's right. All right. Speaking of hating, let's move to Hitman. Hitman 3. So Hitman 3 is coming to VR again in yet another play. Now, infamously, I had a fun time. I had a stream where I was playing Hitman 3 with a PS4, I suppose, at the time. And my PSVR1 headset, and had the camera position, and just, it was a nightmare. And long story short, Sony called me Jim Barnaby, but gave me back my £50 that I paid on the game. And ever since then, I've had a chip in my shoulder about Hitman 3. It's now, I assume, getting funded by Meta for a conversion that's going to be exclusive to Quest. And so it's coming back. Hitman 3 VR Reloaded is just around the corner. So that's going to be coming out sometime this summer. Now, the image of this that's on the web makes it look like GoldenEye. Okay? It looks like GoldenEye 64. I mean, it doesn't look pretty. So if you're into graphics, this might not be the game for you. The first game was really stunning. Some of those Arab scenes where you're up in Dubai and this like huge tower, glinting gold inlay. Beautiful, right? It doesn't look like that. Now, what I'm hoping we're going to get is kind of like, and I've been saying Splinter Cell a couple of times this podcast, a game that at its core is a great spy/assassin hitman game. You get a great game and it looks like a Quest game, I don't mind, as long as it's a great game, right? I can take a downgrade in the visuals. But what you can't do to me is give me a half-assed version of the original Hitman 3, which already had half-assed VR support, and had all kinds of problems. So did any of you, I should say, play Hitman 3 VR? If so, what were your thoughts on it?
I haven't played 3.
Yeah.
But after I heard how bad it was, I just was like, nah, never mind.
Dodged it? Okay. And I can't remember, Rowdy, you didn't touch it, right? You were just...
No, it was horrible.
Yeah, okay. So it has a chance. Let's see how it comes. All right, that's one thing. The other thing I wanted to say about Meta, big announcement since last time, although I'm very salty about this, and I'm going to say it, is MetaConnect. MetaConnect dates were announced, September 25th and 26th. We're going to have a showcase from Meta, their annual spiel. It's been going on for many years. The thing I don't like about MetaConnect these days is that it's generally a closed door event. And it generally, like last year, it doesn't just it's not just open to the public. So what you end up with is you have, I can't stand this, inner circle versus outer circle. It's like people who were invited to the party and then the parties that happen around it. And what it used to be was you'd have the beating heart at the center with Oculus Connect. I know, Rowdy's tasted it. And it wasn't the strongest convention ever, but it was the one place you could congregate in the world where it was like, this is all about VR. You have to reintroduce the topic. And then you had all these fringe events, which were honestly cooler, like, devs showing off stuff in the hallways or in a place across the road, whatever it was. And that's what Connect was. So it really was like a melting pot for people who wanted to come along. But if you wanted to pay the price, which was a lot, I think it was like $400 for a price for a ticket, you'd come along, you'd rub shoulders with a lot of cool, industry people. And now it's really closed and there's almost no information that's available on their public-facing website. Hopefully, that'll get enriched over summer as details get locked down or whatever. But yeah, we'll see what it's like. I'm gonna go. So I've got my trip to California booked. Who else is going to be in California around those dates? Curious.
I'll be in the area. Yeah.
Very cool.
like Liv's going. It just hasn't been decided internally who of us is gonna like officially go. But I think what I'm gonna do is like book a hotel and flight anyway, and then just if I make it in Connect, cool. If not, I still want to go to everything around Connect.
Yeah.
So we'll see what happens.
Yeah, there's all that, and Rowdy doesn't know where in the world he's going to be in September. I think maybe Brazil.
There you go.
Hopefully, we'll have a grayed out photo of him in memory.
Yeah, loving memory of.
Memory of. We could come with. I still think I should sell off my Mike VR face pillow. That'll be fun one day. I'll make
an auction for it. Yeah.
That's what I was planning. I'll throw it up on eBay and give it some fanfare. I'm going to wait until the stock price of that particular pillow goes up. All right. Well, with that, so that's one plan booked for later in the summer, which is great. I'm going to say it here now. A few of my Torontonian friends are going to hate me for it, but I think I'm skipping VRTO this year and won't be able to attend. So people like Blair and Karam and those who I normally see at that, I probably won't be there. Conflict with work, unfortunately. But that's coming up. So if you are around the Toronto area, look out for VRTO. Great event. Really love it. Very different taste and flavor to kind of anything else I've done anything in any other city. And they fly in to run it. So it's an amazing little thing. You should definitely support it and go along. So wanted to give that beat there. The other thing that I've planned is next week, for the first time ever, I'm going to go finally get my face into an Apple Vision Pro. So I've booked a US-based Apple Vision Pro appointment to go check it out for half an hour at a nearby mall when we're down in the US. That's why I'm wearing the colors today. So we're heading down there for a week. So what I'm going to do, which is really cheeky, is I'm going to walk into the place with my Meta glasses on, recording on my way in. And I bet the staff won't even know what they are, but we'll see. We'll see if they catch me out on that or not. Okay, so that's AVP lined up, but I'm not the only one who's getting excited about AVP. They're also getting very excited in Asia because we've just had a big launch across several markets, and this is very important news. I'll explain why in a second. So we've had China, Japan, Hong Kong, and Singapore all launch. Huge industry centers, right? These countries, absolutely massive. The other important thing to know is in China, Meta's blocked. That's China. China's got a lot of people, right? It's got a lot of people, and that's a huge part of the market. I love what Rowdy's showing, which is the Japanese opening day.
Yeah, like, why isn't it like that here? Like, I want to get high-fived by the employees when I walk into the store.
It was like that.
It was. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, you had Tim Cook running through people.
Yeah, it was weird. I don't I mean, Tim Cook belongs. I don't think he's a great face person. I think he makes some good decisions for on the behalf of Apple. But like more recently, have you seen these, Jose? He seems awkward in certain situations where people are trying to.
I think that's what's needed. It's so weird. I agree with you, but I think that's exactly what Spatial or XR needs. It's a banker, somebody who's not here for the gimmick, for the VR is the future of immersion. No, we want a boring guy that's working and using an infinite display and focusing on making money out of these devices.
Agree with you there. My specific gripe, in contrast to Jobs, is that when cornered with a difficult question, he often avoids the question.
Yeah.
Like we had Marquez Brownlee saying, Magic Mouse, like, wasn't that a design mistake? And he does like a very poor tangential switch. I'd prefer someone like him to just give it plain Jane and be like, oh yeah, we made a kind of mistake there. Or
I agree with you, but remember, Steve Jobs was that for computers. I think for VR, we have Palmer Luckey. We already have those crazy outcasts that talk about the value of the technology. Now we need the boring, it's so weird because I have these arguments behind the scenes all the time because everybody agrees that Tim Cook is just very mellow, but believe it or not, look at like expanding to China, like you mentioned.
It's okay. It's okay that he's mellow. They need to kill. They like, and that's what I really like about this expansion plan is that they're not slowing down the train. They've already committed it, and they're like, we are bringing this to the world. And anytime Apple does that, they change the world in doing that, because then they've now got this offer. I still think it's a crazy priced headset. I mean, Rowdy, it's only 5,000 Canadian plus GST, HST, right? We're going to end up spending what, nearly $6,000 for a headset? I don't think so. I assume you're not going to buy one, even
Not
being
yet.
an Apple boy
Not
now.
yet. I
Not yet.
mean,
Yep.
I want to see it grow a little bit. Like I'm, even though I've been like an early adopter for many of the things, I typically do wait at least for a second generation to jump on board. I want to see it, especially with these like new products. I know that Valve does it as well. Like, you know, like they ship something, it looks awesome, but then it doesn't get adopted the way that they were expecting it, and then it kind of gets shelved, and then you have like a very cool device, but without any applications. So I don't think that's going to happen to the Apple Vision Pro, not at all. I don't think so.
No.
But yeah, I'm just going to wait for maybe a second or a third generation before I maybe jump on board there. Also because, you know, I got a laptop now, and I still don't see it as even though it's a cool replacement, I still don't see myself doing my full workday in this. I think just the form factor would have to shrink a lot for it to be something that I would.
It needs to be comfortable is the main thing, right? That's the thing they're gonna have to tackle. But the good thing is, if you look at the difference, either V2 or V3 of their products, like there's such a dramatic change in the watch and the iPhone, and the Apple are very good at that revision. And so I agree with you. Apple Vision Pro 2 or 3.
But I think it's cool though. I think it's very cool. Like
they also didn't compromise on Apple's vision, which is give you like top engineered quality. And the integration that they're working on in the software side, they seem to be taking, I'm not going to say a page out of Meta's book, just a page out of software houses, in that they've got this evolving, rotating cycle of giving taking user input and turning that into new product features.
And a lot of my work still involves like meetings and coding. And and even though there are things in place for that, I don't really feel like the headset is tailored towards that audience. I see a lot of like designers and photographers or videographers and audio engineering and all that stuff. Like the design aspect is definitely there. For boring people like me, maybe that's not really.
Yeah, I think that's exactly what they intended to. I think that you have to start somewhere. Like they had to build the North Star for them to like iterate towards. And I think I don't even when people say like the next iteration of Apple Vision Pro, I really don't think we'll ever see an Apple Vision, or we will, but I don't think we'll have a conversation of Apple Vision Pro 2 for maybe like another 5 to 7 years. It's like similar to the conversation of a successor to the Index. The question is why? You know what I mean? From a business, from a productivity, from a use standpoint, why would you chase after that all-encompassing headset when you can release lower form factor headsets, like you mentioned, that will be able to reach that? Like, that's what the Quest 3 is when you think about it. It's all of the killer features that Apple Vision Pro can do, maybe not as well or as performant, but they're going to get there. So it's two ends of the same spectrum, really.
So if you are looking to get your hands on an AVP, whether it be a demo or to actually buy one, first off, I'm going to say secondary market. But there are pre-orders now opening in the UK, Canada, hey, go Rowdy, Australia, France, and Germany. So they're hitting some really big markets. So they've gone after Asia. That's very important in their competition against Meta. And now some of the other Western markets are getting a taste of AVP. Again, remember Germany? Remember all the mess ups that Meta had with Germany, getting shut down, not able to sell their devices there for a couple of years. So it's good to see Apple coming in strong with sales in major markets. One of those features that came out that I thought would be appealing to someone like Rowdy in future when he owns an AVP is the ultra-wide Mac virtual display, where they essentially have glued two 4x two 4K virtual monitors together in this lovely kind of wraparound wide display. So I just wanted to kind of flash that on screen for you so you could kind of get an idea of what that would be. If you're an existing Apple Vision Pro user and you weren't aware of this feature, well, now you know. The other thing that I wanted to talk to you about was a little app just before we get on to AWE next. A little app that is similar to some of those Trippy things that we saw earlier on. If you're into virtual drug trips, then Trippy Mesh might be for you. If you're an existing Apple Vision Pro owner, what Trippy Mesh does is it takes the scan of your room and the stuff around you and makes it look like Squingle. So Squingle's a puzzle game, which looks like you've gone through an Amazonian drug experience, and Trippy Mesh is not far from that. So we'll see what Rowdy shows on screen. I'm curious what Adam and Jose think of this thing.
I'm waiting to see it.
Will it be a reason for me to get one now?
Yeah, to kind of go for that. I love the images that are there showcasing it, but yeah,
That's cool.
gives you an idea of it anyway. So it's taking your real environment and overlaying this kind of mesh on the scene.
Yeah.
What was the actual purpose for this, or was there a purpose for this?
It's do you want to make your environment look funky, I think. So this is a rush. I'll call it a rush to the App Store with Apple Vision Pro.
I was going to say, this is not doable on a Quest device, right? Because I don't think the Quest can do surface mapping really well.
It's doing it better now. So one of the things that's really strange, I don't know if we've talked about this on the podcast since the latest update, but if you throw your Quest on now and you do a room setup, it will recognize your couch and table and plant and chair and pictures and windows and doors, and it'll do that automatically. You don't have to map it.
It's funny, and we'll talk more about that in AWE, but it's kind of not related to AWE. It's adjacent, but I did sit down for a seminar talk on Snapdragon that they were talking about how they're kind of ushering how they want people to make or develop games for the Quest ecosystem. And one of the things that I did notice is that they're kind of pushing very GPU heavy development. So I think that's probably the reason why we're going to see more performant software being released on Quest
GPU heavy
devices.
development on this is Quest or AVP?
Quest. So Quest. You mentioned that it's much better now on the Quest devices, and it's related to that. I think that the games we're just seeing a different approach to how games are being designed for Quest compared to Apple Vision Pro, because Apple Vision Pro is taking advantage of the CPU, which is like physics and all that cool stuff, plus graphics, where the Quest is gonna focus more on graphics because the physics and all those features are handled by the CPU itself. So I think we are going to see much more performant games because of that reason specifically.
More recently, there has been a lot of work done specifically with like vision models in terms of turning just 2D pictures into 3D objects.
Yeah.
So there's been a lot of improvement in the past couple of weeks, even I would say, in terms of models that got released, where that performance gets really high grade. Like even I've seen things where from a 2D picture of a cat or like of a fire hydrant or whatever, and it turns into a full 3D model automatically, like an exported model into Blender, so that you could just like take the picture, and it uses machine learning and artificial intelligence to like estimate how a model like that will work, and it looks very impressive.
It's nuts that we're there, and it's nuts that like a year from now we're going to be so much deeper down this rabbit hole. Like it's very exciting. You can feel like we're on the roller coaster and we're just going over the top, all right, let's move into AWE then. So Adam and Jose were at AWE. I picked up a few things on the web. I saw a Spacetop laptop. I saw Sony's gray new headset coming out, looking like a svelte, sexy, slimmed down version of a PSVR2. We saw Palmer come and talk, but what were your standout points? What did you guys get up to while you were out there?
Did you want to start, Jose? Or
Man, I think you should, because to be quite honest, for me, AWE this year, which I can mention that AWE, I think this was the first AWE that I felt like enterprise value, like actual businesses and companies that, as much as I love the content creator side of VR and the games, I'm not really in that side of VR. Really, I'm more focused on the people that are building. So I did notice that I was packed full of meetings. Shout out to Arbor XR. They had me working this AW. I was there just to, wrap the podcast and just enjoy stuff. And I ended up having way more meetings and an event than I ever had, just being introduced to companies. But yeah, Adam, out the floor.
Okay. I'll just go through a limited amount, a mix of stuff that I really enjoyed and stuff that I enjoyed that was weird. So very light. But the first thing, which was kind of a big deal, was the panel that I did with Impact Reality. I moderated for them, and it was we kind of were flying by the seat of our pants in the beginning, because I guess I intimidated them a little bit with my okay, this person should have this amount of time to talk so that we can make sure that we get through it all. So I apologize for
presidential
scaring the crap out of
debate.
them. I get really into it, but regardless, it still worked out in the end. And they were, I'm just the question asker. They were the ones that were really answering everything, and it's hard to put together. The panel was about an hour, covering things like social media, which could be their own, panel on its own, or press releases, all that stuff. So I think they did a really good job with their answers, making it as concise as possible, but still giving away something actionable. It was a panel on the essential of VR, or the essential tips for marketing for VR games. So that one, it's available on YouTube if anyone is interested, but it's probably going to be more developer focused, to be completely honest. But it was a fun one. It was really nice, and our room was packed. I mean, it was really bright, the lights on us, so I'm assuming it was really packed from what I could limited see. But it was fun. It was a good one. And I think, what is it? Oh yeah. Next up was one of my actual one that I'm super excited about, and it's XReal. They're coming out with their XReal Beam Pro, which he made very clear to me is not a phone, even though it's an Android device that has access to the Play Store and you can get any app that you can on your phone, but it doesn't have its own phone number, which, to be honest, you could get around with something like Google Voice or any app. But he wanted to make it really clear that it's not a phone. It's supposed to be so one of the main problems that XReal has is when people ask, what can I pair the glasses with? And depending on your answer, you might need an adapter. You might need, then you have to figure out how do you get power and how do you charge your device and get the glasses plugged in at the same time. So this was a problem that XReal realized was not great, and that was their solution, was the XReal Beam Pro. What I like about it is it's got 2 ports on the bottom, so you can actually plug the glasses in and charge them at the same time.
Does it? How does it look at it? So it looks like a phone.
It looks like a phone, but it's I gotta say it's supposed to be not a phone. Totally not a phone.
It does have the modem in it.
They are going to release a wireless mode, but also one that can connect to 5G. So there's going to be some price difference depending on the model you get. But it also does, what really excited me is it does 3D photos and videos. So you can see the 2 lenses on the front there. And I'm like, oh man, is that another thing that I'm going to have to take kayaking with me? Because then you could take the media that you shoot and you could watch it in, either in the glasses, or I'm also thinking something like the Quest. Anywhere you can watch 3D side by side footage media, you can just take it from the not phone, the XReal Beam Pro, and put it in there. Yeah. So I don't know. And it's really, really affordable. Hold on, I have the pricing here. I was like, oh, this thing's going to be probably like 500 plus.
That was going to be my question. I was like, okay, $800. How much is this?
Yeah. So it starts at $199.
Wow.
Yeah. And then I think maybe if I remember correctly, 250, again, depends on the storage size that you get, but less than $300, which I was like, that's pretty insane. Like, oh, okay. I thought this thing was going to be crazy expensive, but that's actually a really good deal. So they're trying to solve, a couple of problems of, what do I connect the glasses to? Will my device be powerful enough to use stuff with the glasses? How do I charge? And all that stuff. So just they made their own device for it, and it's really cool. Like it's, if I'm gonna definitely get one because I think
It's an
cool.
Android-based device, I assume.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah. And so you just connect to the Play Store, download your YouTube app, watch side-by-side content if you want, take videos and play them on there. Nifty. I suppose my hesitation for adding accessories to what feels like an accessory is it's like the jumble of stuff. It's like, okay, now I need a man purse to carry around with me so I can have my gadgets with me. That's the only thing that is a barrier for me.
I was on the same page as that because I was like, I really think I could just make this a phone. I know he said it's meant to be, companion, but like I use a Google number. My actual phone number, like I don't.
What's a Google? Sorry, what's a Christmas special? What's a Google number?
It's just a phone number you can get on Google. So if there's maybe people like I use it for businesses or I don't know. I just weird having people call my personal number. So instead, you could just kind of make a number and it'll automatically go into your inbox when someone sends a voicemail. It translates it into text. Like it's super useful to have. So
yeah, that sounds really
he
cool.
mentioned, and I think you mentioned it too. There is a 5G one, so that technically is a mobile device. It just doesn't have a cell phone SIM card built in.
Yeah, pretty much.
You could just eSIM it, right? Like, I mean, if they had
there's
I'm trying to understand the barrier.
To make
I think there's a legal technicality why he can say because Ralph flagged me down at the event. He actually had me try them, and I told him I was like, wait, if it has 5G, it's technically a phone, and he didn't want to like even say yes to that.
The core litmus test there is can it dial 911 or emergency services in the country where you use it. That's probably tied.
Oh yeah.
They'll probably call China.
Yes.
I'm kidding. I love the X-Real.
Yeah, but that was the X-Real Beam Pro, which was one of my highlights. Again, there were many, but I'm just gonna narrow it down to like one other kind of.
What did you like about it specifically, though? Like use case for Adam. What would that be?
Well, I really like my. I have the Air 2 glasses, the one that doesn't have hand tracking, but it's fine. Like I'm just use it for extra monitors. But I have a hard time using it on my phone because I have like the Samsung S21, so it's a little slower now. And then I had to use an adapter that I got for a different AR glasses in order to be able to charge and use it at the same time. So like I've only ever really used it with my computer. And even then I needed like a weird ass adapter, like some kind of crazy HDMI to USB thing. But with this, it's like, I know it's going to work and I know I can bring this, pair it with a Bluetooth keyboard. And now I can bring this with me and it's going to be, it's meant for the glasses. So I don't have to worry about like that. I had a weird typing lag issue when I used it with my phone, which was just a total deal killer. I couldn't do work that way. But
so am I hearing mobile office then? Like you're able to set up shop in a hotel room? Like what's your use case now that the hardware can go and you don't need a PC to drive it? Like if you've got the Beam Pro.
That, and I really would actually love to experiment with taking the 3D photos and videos. He took some samples when we were there, and I'm like, when you get to see them, I was like, that's really cool. Like, it's kind of more dangerous, but I'm like, could I take this kayaking with me and take like 3D, kayaking videos and glasses? It's probably gonna be too much at that point, but I'm like, there's a lot of like new stuff. Like, I don't know how well it's gonna take off, but I like being able to try and experiment with these things and see what I can do.
So content creation, your content creator brain is buzzing at the moment with this new possibility. Cool.
Yeah. Okay, and the price point, it's just so cheap, so I don't have to worry too much if it ends up just being stuck in a shelf somewhere. I mean, yes, it's over, several $100s, but it's not like $500 or not like Apple Vision Pro, that would be a bigger ouchie. But yeah, that was that.
Cool.
I enjoyed it a lot. Weird. Let's move on to weird. I have one
love weird stuff
thing because I always love that. And this is the company's called SimTech VR. And the best way I can describe this is it's like a Segway without the handlebar. It's like a VR locomotion device. So what it does is your legs get strapped into these pads, and then depending on the direction you're leaning, the device will actually turn to face the way that you're leaning. And I was skeptical because I was like, this thing's gonna be like, how is it gonna how good are the sensors? But it was actually pretty good. They put me in some kind of generic Chinese shooter, and when I would lean and turn, it actually would turn with me, and it was actually kind of fun. It was like a mini ride, although I was a little scared at the same time, so I didn't feel comfortable like to bend my knees. So I feel like it's probably unsafe that my legs are like this stiff if I were to play this for a long time. But it was interesting. Would I buy one of these? I mean, probably not, but it was fun to use.
Looks huge. Looks like medical equipment. That's what it looks like to me.
But
and so it's just a locomotion machine. Basically.
Yep.
Yeah.
So instead of physically turning, I guess you could just lean. But
why? What is the?
Yeah, they have treadmill versions of this too, which they didn't have on the show floor. I only saw pictures of. I don't know how those work, but I think maybe they're more meant for like arcades. But he did say you could buy them for personal use too.
Yeah.
I just don't understand because like I mean, correct me if I'm wrong, but standing and turning is not a problem that we have in VR.
Exactly.
Right?
Yeah, like I can turn around just fine. Thanks.
All I see is the brace around your legs, and it gives me anxiety because I've worked at arcades so much. It's like anything near legs is bad when kids are running around. And as to quote Rowdy, people are spontaneous. You can't really account for sudden movements. That's a broken leg just waiting to happen.
Yeah. As for the why, I have no idea. But I was really skeptical that it would even work, and it did. It did what they wanted it to do, but
it turned.
That's about it. Yeah.
You can do that sitting down.
I've seen such. I mean, the thing is, the fun thing about these shows is to go and try out wacky stuff that, like, you're like, okay, this doesn't have a market. No one will ever buy this, but I'm gonna try it now, and I get the opportunity.
What I was expecting it like to turn, but I was expecting if you lean forward that you would like move as well. But did it do that?
Too. In the game though. So if you can't tell because I'm not actually having to physically lean forward and backward that much, but it does serve as like a forward and backward.
So if you lean okay, then I understand it already better.
It's
still
deal.
Weird, but yeah.
It's like you take your joystick, right, from your N64 and you sit on it. It's like, well, it's so weird. It's so weird.
I will say it worked for me, but I get for Reese, other content creator, YouTuber, Reese the King. When he tried it, somehow it got stuck. I guess so it kept circling on him. So I had good luck with it working, but I guess there's a chance that maybe it needs some more time because that would suck. I don't know how you would try to get off that thing if it's constantly just circling.
Oh my gosh, you made me nauseous just thinking about it because I don't do well with that lateral motion stuff. And so he just kept spinning in place.
I didn't see it, but when I told him about my experience, he was like, "Yeah, I didn't have as good of an experience as you did."
Yeah, I feel like we had this a couple of years ago, like 2018 or something, where it was almost just like a disc on the ground or something with your feet for accessibility, where you'd be sitting in a chair or. I've seen a couple of these now, but that one looks like to be like the most, I don't know, inflated. Inflation seems to be a thing in this podcast, but like it's very bulky. So yeah, wouldn't be something I'd bring into my home. Okay, cool. Anything else from AWE then?
Nothing that I have media for, but I did want to give a special shout out. The Between Realities got an Augie. That was the first time they had a content creator award category, and they got an Augie. And then also Palmer Luckey giving away an Augie to MetaQuest 3, which I thought was kind of hilarious. Because they had, good presenters.
Wow.
For some reason, they thought, let's put him on for the best headset category. And so, of course, Quest won. And then he's like, here you go. Here's your
That's not awkward. Yeah, that's not awkward at all. Well, that's a good segue for us to talk about Palmer. So Palmer had a nice rundown with Darshan and it was a really nice kind of chat they had, kind of hearkening back to their origins and all this. But really what people were kind of interested in was what's in the feckin' box, Palmer, because he was carrying around a DK1 box for the event, and it was an early version of DK1 that he had in there, but he was basically announcing that he has a new military headset on the way. Now, a lot of people know about his military supply company, Anduril, and I don't know, this guy's got a lot going on right now. So, let alone kicking off Oculus 10 years and a bit ago, he just started another company called Mod Retro, which allows you to play Game Boy games. So I'm not going to talk about that now, but if you're into Game Boy cartridges, go check it out. It looks like a really cool little product. But he's launching that. And then separately, he talked about his military headset. Just before I get into what I think his military headset might look like, he gave a really interesting recommendation to new people up and coming and creating. And that was basically do your own research and make new mistakes. Don't make old mistakes. Like, go through the history books, learn the thing that you're doing. Doesn't matter what it is. Say you're making paintbrushes. Learn the mistakes that other humans have made so you don't do the same ones, and then build new. And I thought that was a really nice piece of wisdom. He's also very funny on stage. Met him a few times in person as well, thanks to Connect in the past. And I like the fact that he's this like combination of kind of wild, mad scientist, very, very okay with his own views for anyone who's seen him in his anime getup, his political side, all of that. And now with the military application, this is what I think he's building. So he didn't show anything. He didn't show a headset. He just announced that he's going to be partnering with people. I think it seems to be early in the ideation phase. But this is what I think he's doing. So, Rowdy, show us the Ukrainian kamikaze drone pilot. So there's an FPV headset that looks very much like Big Screen Beyond. And I think a lot of people like myself were thinking, oh, maybe he's got something going on with Darshan. And something like Big Screen's like very slimline headset, high pixel count. Palmer obviously has admiration for that, the technology, the entrepreneurial kind of startup that led into that and to where they are today. But there's a Ukrainian kid, I think he's 19 years old. Correct me there, Rowdy, if you see different in the article. But he basically pilots drones in the war against Russia. And he tracks down tanks, APCs, and individual soldiers. I know it's a bit grim, but this is war. And this kid is strapped in with, again, what looks like a modded big screen. I think it's a different headset, and he's piloting a drone it's got a payload on it, and he runs it into a tank or runs it down a shaft and finds a soldier who's hiding in a ditch or something. And so he's just out there. I'm going to paint it very clearly, killing Russian soldiers from a bunker. And I think, anyone who's watched like Gundam Wing or something, you got big mechs fighting in a field. Like we're there now in this bizarre dystopian future where we're sending drones to kill each other. And
yeah,
and I think that's what Palmer's
this has been
building.
around for a long time. And I've stressed this before, how much I disagree with this technology being used for that kind of stuff. And I know it's unavoidable, but it becomes so easy to pull the trigger. And you're so dissociated from that experience that the amount of times that it has been happening has been increased so much. Like, it's not anymore like, are we going to consider, sending people there? That always comes with a risk. Drone doesn't come with a risk. Yeah, it comes with a money risk, but like, there's no risk involved. So it's so easy now to do these kind of things. And I think in a way these are war crimes because you're killing people. Yeah, I voiced my opinion on this before, and
it's not a fair fight.
Yeah, it's
I think
not.
it's also
Now look, I am not pro Russia. I'm just going to say that, right? But what we're talking about here is we're talking about really
the technology being used for this. Yeah,
I think it's important to note too that these are two different technologies, right? Because FPV technology and VR XR technology are completely different, right? Because FPV is you're getting a video feed that you are, it's technically more drone operations with a telefeed than VR. Right. I wanted to note this specifically for Palmer. I respect the guy. I love what he's doing, but it's also important to note that his biggest superpower is marketing, right? So strapping bombs to a headset is, a way to get press. So a military grade headset, to make it military grade, it just has to be manufactured in the United States, has to have components that the United States can, bulk order and use and deploy. It doesn't have to be, you don't have to, make a headset to kill in order for it to be a military headset. It could just be manufactured in the US and be lightweight. It could just be a big screen in the US. That's all it has to be.
But you're assuming there, because of his existing relationship in supplying the US government, and maybe there's some part of that contract that limits who we can market to. But I did not take the assumption that what Palmer is going to create next would be limited to US consumption. I see Anduril as, I know right now he's contracted to the US military, and I know he's, I suppose, politically aligned very strongly to the US and protecting the US and all this. So you're probably right, Jose, in that's who he's thinking about when he's designing. And I get the point. I think this is what he's making. I think he's making a small form factor, lightweight headset that will, for his drones that he's also been making with Anduril, enable pilot operator, basically. But what you're touching on is such a heavy topic, and I appreciate you voicing your opposition with that. The same thing, right? It does not feel, when you said war crime, I think that hit the button right where I feel about it, because like, it's just not a fair fight to take a human being and throw what is $1,000 bomb at them and be like, yeah, that was fair. I mean, that's someone's kid, no matter their political views, no matter the war that's going on.
I still think the goal in any war should be to avoid as many, deaths as possible, right?
Yeah.
I'm with you guys, unless I get a Gundam. If I get a Gundam, then all my opinions. I'm keeping it 100. I'm with you guys, but if I get to control a mecha robot, then I don't know. My biases just go out the window. Give me the mecha.
But also, and people often forget that, and I get it, like war does push technology forward, but it does always come at a huge price of human lives. And like one of the biggest things that we all know, they made a movie about it last year with Oppenheimer, is the Manhattan Project. They didn't show it in the movie, but that they tested the bombs in New Mexico, right? You know how many people died there from radiation? Kids died, especially Hispanics, Native Americans, but those numbers, they don't get portrayed there. And of course, this is again different technology, but I don't see it that far away from that, because again, this is such a weird kind of moment that we're in, where we're, and the same thing with the Manhattan Project. You just drop the bomb, and whatever happens. And I feel like this is the closest thing that we get to that. And now everyone is saying, yeah, we shouldn't have done that. Oh, that was a horrible thing that happened. But 10 years from now, when we have these devices and, they cost maybe $200 to send a drone into somewhere, and, you could do it anywhere. And then something goes wrong, or they hit the wrong mark, or it wasn't this. And there's just so much stuff that gets involved in this that I think
that's what he wants us to talk about. I really do. It's really crazy to think about this stuff, but I'm telling you, all he's just making is a headset that you can get it in China, but if you're producing for the US,
I think it's a bad argument.
Also,
that's the same
when
thing
you think of FPV, the FPV technology, if you heard of F1 racing, first-person drones that go 300 miles per hour plus already exist. So I'll tell you right now, the military is already using this technology. They already have unmanned drones. They already have all this tech. When Palmer says he's making a headset for U.S. consumption that also happens to be military, the reason is that there's no American-based company right now that's doing these headsets. So if you're in deep research, it doesn't even have to be military. It could just be, working with high-level sensitive research that you don't want other people to get access to. You want to make sure that those chips are manufactured somewhere.
I know what you're saying, Jose.
Yeah,
they're talking about the government contract prerequisite, but it's not the same argument. I think that.
No,
Rowdy, go ahead.
Yeah. I just think it's a bad argument to say, it's going to be happening anyway, therefore let's do it in the US. And that is a rhetoric that Palmer Luckey has been pushing a lot. Like, China is doing it, Russia is doing it. If we don't do it, we fall behind. And I just don't. I think that's a bad argument to push a technology, or to push a way of using a technology that I agree it does exist, but to integrate that into the biggest army in the world, with the most amount of money, with the most amount of resources to push that rhetoric of like, you know, we need this. We need this in order to compete. Like, I don't know. I just find it, maybe it's because I'm European and we are very averse of that kind of stuff. And I find it a weird kind of thing to integrate that. I just do.
No, you're right. I'm just saying, I think that's what he wanted to instill, but I don't think that's going to be the result. It's the point I'm trying to say. Is I think he really wanted people to think about military in VR because that's his main demographic. But I don't think that whatever he's going to release, he even said it was going to be for public use also. So that's what it sounds like. I just think he's just mentioning. Same thing with Mod Retro. Like Mod Retro is, a lot of people are like, oh, he's really good at marketing. There's thousands of handhelds that do this already. There's the Sapphire screen LCD technology already exists. All of this stuff already. Well, he's just good at marketing. I agree.
He's good with marketing. I want to clarify a couple of things here because I see a chat light up, and it's always funny to see how people take what you say and bend it in a direction. For me, the thing that scares me down Rowdy's commentary, right, is as technology gets cheaper, I don't worry about some Mad Hatter. Sorry, Mad Hatter. I'm just going to use your name there for a thing. Some Mad Hatter decides to take a van and drive it into a crowd, right? It's someone sitting in their apartment using a drone to just, you know, go cause general chaos. Again, I'm not going to say all the bad things that could possibly happen, as some of these things are restricted words, I think, on here. But the arms race that we're in globally, what Palmer has spoken about before, I think is a difficult matter of fact. In if you want to stay safe, do you have to arm up? Do you have to follow the same track that your those opposing you are following? I don't know a better answer to that. I don't know what you're proposing, Rowdy, that they do instead.
I just can't wait for someone to push the argument like drones don't kill people. People kill people.
Yeah, and it's coming.
AI.
I mean, chat made a great point where they were saying, you know, what's the difference between a drone piloted by an individual and a large, dumb artillery weapon that drops on a village of people and takes out 20 more than were intended? To some extent, you would say that more precise weaponry is better because you carry less. And this is all a very big topic, and I know we probably don't have time to go into it today. So look, I'll kind of finish that part by saying it just the future that we're headed towards with this technology is most of the time very, very exciting. When we talk about VR, AR, MR, XR, whatever term you want to put on it, I'm just going to call it VR. Like, it's really exciting. I think it's going to bring us into good places, but with the good comes some of the bad. And I do find that this is scary territory for me personally. I think this is difficult. Not much good comes from war. And we just got to keep our eyes open and watch it. And, you know, I think it's important that we do call it as you see it. And if you think there's a better path for us to take, say it. What more can we do? But I feel so much a passenger in this ride, and I hope that what Palmer's envisaging with his next step does as much good as Oculus, I feel, did. I don't know that it will, but those are my 2 cents on it. Guys, any other closing remarks? Otherwise, we'll go towards the upload.
I think we talked about it enough.
All right. With that, let's go swim in the what was a very nice Upload Summer Showcase this time. They've struggled with technicalities, as has this show, as at the very start of this show. So my bleeding heart goes out to them. I thought this was probably their first high-quality broadcast. They've had a few kind of fledgling ones in the past, audio problems, transmission problems, whatever. So good job, Upload, on giving us a good show. And not just that, in a year that's felt a little bit like the doldrums, they had a pretty healthy lineup, too. It wasn't all just small indie things. I'm going to call some of those out that stood out as different from the rest of the pack. The first one I saw on here, albeit not a new game, Maestro, which is a hand-controlled game where you have control of in almost a Beat Saber or what's another game that kind of uses almost like a Rock Band style format, using hand tracking instead of a guitar, you've got a feather, and you get to compose and help a sea of instruments obey your very will. And the touch that I loved at the end of their little game trailer, which already kind of caught my eye, was when they turn around and get a series of flowers showered on them. I thought that was a really nice touch. My only question though with this kind of game, which I wonder how all you reacted to this, is this fun for more than 15 minutes? Like that's my question.
Sad is there actually is a Maestro VR, like a different game, and that is going to be probably so much marketing confusion between the two. This game already came out maybe like a year or two ago. Although to be fair, this one looks way higher quality and polished than the other one did. But it was the same concept, sort of.
Oh man!
Except
So they're not the same game, is what you're saying?
I thought they were the same.
Oh wow!
No,
I thought they were the same.
Maestro VR and then just Maestro.
Oh, that's dirty because
Totally
of the
not
VR.
confusing. I was totally not confused.
Wow.
That's dirty. That's actually, you know what? I stand on it. That's dirty. That's who Maestro. Change your name, like just because there's no VR in it.
Well, the previous title I think floundered a bit, but it was from several years ago. Like this is not a new title. So Maestro then is a new title from a different dev studio. I'm sorry, I didn't pick that up. That totally confused me.
Wow.
It looks
Maestro
great.
VR, that came out by Symphonic Games.
Yes. Thank you,
Maestro,
Adam.
the master class is the one that we're looking at now. Yeah, that one's by a bigger company that we know. Can't think of the top of my head. Double Jack, maybe not. I don't know.
I've
But
heard of them.
Creature, I know, has taken them over. So yeah, different.
Yeah, Creature's got them
different.
as publisher.
Unfortunate, but you know.
Yeah, no, that's not cool. That's actually not cool.
So yeah, just back to that question because I'm keen to hear it. Do you guys see playing this game and enjoying it for more than 15 minutes? Like, is this the game you'd see yourself going back to? Remember we had that hand tracking guitar solo one.
Yeah. Amp or something like that. Unplugged.
Yeah.
Unplugged, yeah. I think those games are cool when you add mod support. Same thing with Unplugged. There was no mod support. It would be cool if you can do like IPs with this. Like it would be cool if you like now. Yeah, do like the Star Wars theme song, and then they're all stormtroopers playing with you. That would be kind of cool, but I don't think, once again, no longer than 15 minutes a session.
Yeah. Okay, so that's the first one. Here's another piece of news that we had. Oh, sorry, Rowdy's showing something. Oh, he was showing the double check. It's the same. It's the same. Yeah, I love that the guy's like. What did the note say that he was showing?
When is there gonna be more game?
Oh, more game, as in show us more.
Yeah.
He's like, yeah, just wait. That's what that was. It'll be
I like
ready.
what Spatial Biggs called it in the chat. Beat feather.
Beat feather. That's lovely. Okay, so the next one is news from a game that I'm a big fan of. Now coming, I actually thought it was dead. I honestly thought this game was dead in the water. Spatial Ops coming to the official Quest store in some expanded format. I have very little detail behind this other than it's getting, I feel like the ring's going on the finger. Like, we're making Spatial Ops into a, whatever they call that, a complete woman or whatever they say. They're like, make it complete. So I hope this goes the way that Resolution looked like they were going initially, which is it's going to be a multiplayer title celebrating what Quest 3 can do for people who have more than one headset in their house, which I know is a limited population right now. But where we're going is mixed reality. It's such a great game. Like I want to see asset packs. I want to see different doodads that you can place around your environment that maybe aren't so big, because I feel like they made the game for very large, wide open spaces. And honestly, this kind of game, even on a single level in a house, can be super fun. But their items are too big a lot of the time. So we don't see any change to that in this trailer, but at least it's coming. So I don't know, Adam and Jose, you guys are keen on this stuff. So like, what do you want from this? What do you want?
I think this is the most that the Quest 3 can probably do really well. Like when you started saying you want more and you want different like asset packs, no way.
Yeah, I don't want small. I want to use my whole house. So the limitation isn't with resolution; it's with the space setup. Give me my whole house so everything could be a potential thing to hide behind. Like, I don't want to play. It's hard to play a shooter with another person in a tiny room. You know, I mean, I guess you can, but just give me access to more space. The bigger space. If I can use my whole house, perfect, and my backyard.
You're saying back to Meta, hey, we need a bigger Guardian boundary like they had originally before they ratcheted it down to 30 by 30 feet, 10 by 10 meters. And Jose, I think what you're saying is that the hardware limitation is the ceiling there. It's not, there's a reason they put the ceiling there. And that's my understanding in terms of the capacity, the memory in the Quest 2, at least. There's hard limits. So I suppose as we evolve forward, that problem should just fade away.
Yeah.
Yeah. But I mean, that's like Matt Hatter's saying there, like European houses are pretty small. So if it needs to work in maybe not a studio apartment, but that's why I'm thinking like single floor of a small house where you're connecting a kitchen and a living room and and I've done that with my kids in a relatively small environment and it's still been fun, but the objects are too funky.
Yeah. What I'm really curious about, and I hope that maybe Meta Connect might even talk a little bit about that, is that Meta does have their enterprise system now for arcades or businesses. Yep. So technically, maybe this app could be one of the first ones that arcades can legally license using an actual Quest headset. Would be kind of cool to see.
I'd love to see that, and because they don't exist in a commercial space today, right?
Yeah,
I've never seen them.
They don't.
I've never seen them there.
They're trying, but there's now mechanisms in place for that. Before it was completely impossible. Now at least there is a method that you can legally license games to show off in a retail environment, commercial setting. Yeah,
cool. I remember when Steam went through that step for LANs. It was fun. Okay, so the next one I want to show you is another mixed reality game. And I am just honestly excited about mixed reality, by the way. I know a lot of people look at it and go poo-poo it or whatever, but the next one is Thomas Van Bowel's Laser Dance. Got a new teaser, really nice looking trailer. And have you not tried it at all? Not at conventions or anything?
I think I did get access to it, like an early version, but I have to try it. Like I'm so excited for this one. I don't know why. It's a simple concept, but like it looks so fun.
The thing is, it's one of those things that it's super fun to watch someone else play. Mm-hmm. It's super fun to play yourself. Just bring knee pads. Like that's my only advice, right? Because the idea behind Laser Dance is you have a panel on one wall, you have a button you've got to get to on another wall, and then you have a sea of lasers. Now the lasers adapt to the space, the volume, the size. So imagine like a T for God, but in that space, you've got a sea of lasers you've got to get from point A to point B. And it can get really dramatic. So this game has been in the oven for what I feel like is 2 years now. So part of me wants to say, Thomas, release the thing already. But hey, he's very good with quality first. And so has been engineering this thing. So anyway, that got another little bit on the showcase. For those who've tried it at conventions or whatever, if you get the opportunity, you hear it's in a hallway or there's a demo going on, track it down. It's bloody fun. The next piece of news from Upload's showcase, which is pretty cool. FReality fella, Mike of Virtual Reality Oasis, has announced formally now his 2080 Games studio for basically publishing VR titles, and announced 2 games. Out of the 2 announced, I think the one that I'm most excited about there is Miracle Pool. Miracle Pool is a pool mixed reality game. There you go, a third mixed reality game. And it sits in the middle of your environment as a pool table, like a real life looking pool table. And I know Mike and his crew did the trailer for that one actually as well, which is pretty cool. I'll have to say this for anyone who's got, again, 2 headsets in a house that are pass-through capable. It's a really good kind of date night type experience, just to hang around, shoot pool, just like you would in a bar, but you're doing it in your home space, provided you get enough space. As far as I could tell, I think the table was a fixed size. And even in my pretty large size basement, it was big. I haven't tried it outside yet. I wonder if Miracle Pool would work in that situation as well. But any of you guys played Miracle Pool yet? Because that's a pretty nifty one. No? Okay.
It looks cool though.
Yeah.
It's very clean. It's a very clean game. The ball physics are great. It looks like a 4VR game, but made a little bit more seriously. right? Like, so less like tongue-in-cheek cartoon character, and I never really loved that. So Miracle Pool has a nice taste to it as a VR experience. The next one that I'll just focus in on, also say congrats to Mike for the progress he's made with his publishing house. That's going to be fun to see what else comes, as I think there's more in the oven. Hollow Tanks also looked like fun for anyone who's played some battle tank experiences. I had one that I used to love ages ago on iOS, which was called Smash Tanks, which was a 3v3 with some physics, and it was a fun multiplayer game that you'd play out in a yard or something, but you had to have an iPad or an iPhone or something. Holotanks is a multiplayer MR experience where you have AI or PvP experiences with virtual tanks running around on the ground. So this one has a kind of a nifty trailer. It's kind of the default you see in this kind of composition. Here's a headset, I'm in a headset, honey, you're in a headset too, and we're going to play with our tanks in this space. But I'm really excited for this style of game where you're co-op and playing with a person, and there's some real life elements in your environment. Like I can't remember the name of the game, but there's a game that my family plays on the Switch at the moment, and it's on Steam as well. I'll tell you if I remember the name, where you basically upgrade a robot and you trade out the parts. You trade out the head or the body or the legs, and so you're customizing the look and performance of your weapons as you upgrade. If this game went down that track and actually gave you something to that was maybe competitive or co-op and like a structured story, God, that I would eat the heck out of that game. That looks really cool. What about you guys? You got any MR games that you're really kind of keen on, or things that maybe people don't know about you want to recommend they check out?
Well, from the Upload Showcase, I thought that the Starship Home, that one confused and interested me at the same time. That was the mixed reality one where you could see outside in space, but you also had to, I think, find different plants so you could be able to, place them on your actual furniture and grow them and stuff. Like, I don't know what the progression would really be in that game, but I just like the idea of it's kind of like augments, but in a game somehow. So I'm curious. I'm curious about that one. Like, what's going to keep me coming back if it's just growing plants?
Wasn't that? I thought there was a room escape element to that game. If I might be wrong, but I thought that was a mixture of like room escape and survival or something with MR. No,
it's mostly just like you go like you have windows that you put on the walls of your room, and then you go to different places in space, and it seems like you're able to collect different types of plants, and then you have to grow and nurture them. So if it's something kind of like a Garden of the Seas mixed reality, like I would love that shit. Like I was so addicted to it, but I don't know. It looked interesting, but the trailer didn't give me enough as far as like what's the incentive for wanting to get these plants? Is it just to have them and then you can take care of them, I guess? But so I don't know.
Is that
it's like a botany.
Plants? Isn't that always
like
the
real
reason
life.
for having plants? Just have them and take care of them.
Yeah, but they stay there. Like you don't have to worry about taking off the headset and then they just disappear.
Yeah, as far as mixed reality, it's one I'm going to mention on releases, so I don't want to talk a little bit too much about it. But Infinite Insight, I think that also got a trailer on the Upload Games, which is a mixed reality puzzle game. But what I liked about it is that it does have a VR based storytelling. So I think the puzzles are mixed reality, and I think the story is VR. So that you go inside the puzzles themselves, and I'll talk a little bit more about it on the release.
Yeah, we're getting close. I've only got two more things to mention. So Adam, did you have more? Otherwise, I was going to talk two others that I saw in the showcase.
Just one other non-mixed reality related, and that was Metal Hellsinger VR, which the demo's on Steam, so I want to try it. I haven't gotten a chance to try it yet, but that one looks cool.
Wait, are we talking also non-mixed reality? Because I know for a fact Zim's going to mention the one that I'm excited about. So.
I'll mention my two, and then you can go, Jose. So, so the first one was I have to take my hat off for a style that I have not seen a dev take before, not this way anyway. But Bulletstorm, basically saying that they fixed their game. They start off a trailer by showing a bunch of negative reviews, and they're like, "We fucked up." And then they go on to like deep dive into the things that were messed up about their game, like the game crashing and all various different things. But doing this, like using their platform to basically say, "Hey guys, consider us for a reboot. Like we're gonna patch our game and actually bring the vulgarity back in, and we're gonna increase how it looks on Quest 3." And like, what a great like re-echo of, hey, why don't you consider our game? Because the first obviously came out the gates a little bit shaky. I actually didn't play it as a result. I kind of just bypassed it. I was like, I just don't have time for a lackluster experience right now. And I know gamers sometimes do the same thing. So just great job on using your platform and your advertising dollars to come at it in that way. Like, I love it when a dev studio or human being admits their mistake or their fault up front.
Yeah. You
When
can
it
only
looks
do
like
it
it could be egg
once,
on the
though.
face.
You can only do it once. Like, it's not like now people go like they try it again. It's like, yeah, this is worse now. Like, just imagine.
Oh, right.
Starfield needs to do that shit, right? Like, I mean,
Yeah.
Bethesda needs to, own up to it. But great job on that to the Bulletstorm devs. Fantastic. I think it's People Can Fly. But then the last one that I had, which I wonder if it's what Jose was talking about,
hoping.
is
There you go.
so it's Madison VR is coming to Quest. Okay, so it's the thing that I'm calling out is, first off, Quest don't have the black levels, honey. It just doesn't, right? So there's something that you need to experience in that game that gives you proper blacks. So maybe buy a PC adapter, pick up a PSVR2 and do it that way if you need. But I am keen to see what happens in the reviews, let's say, or the comments of Madison VR once it does come to Quest 3 in particular. I think it's great that more people are going to get to shit themselves while playing VR, because it's a really solid. I've considered it for my top games, like top 5, top 7, because it's just such a great horror experience end to end, and the VR work, it just
Jose's
terrifies you.
Jose's
Yeah, no,
gonna
that's
love
definitely-
this one.
That's definitely not the game I was thinking about.
All right, Jose, what were you on? What were you thinking about?
Thrasher VR, man, from the creators of
Oh,
Thunder.
Yeah.
That's super exciting. I'm a sucker for like rhythm-based games, and I love the visuals on the trailer for that.
Yeah. I had the same reaction to Thrasher that I did to Metal Hellsinger, which is it better feel bloody fluid, because if it doesn't, I don't want to feel like I felt when I played Mirror's Edge the first time, which 2 hours in, you're like, yeah, I'm right getting to run. And then you just like hit a wall, or you miss up a move, and you just feel like it's too difficult to kind of get into. There's too much barrier to, like, I need to perfect my skills. Like VR Skater does that really well, where it gives you just enough success that you want to keep playing. So for both of those, Adam, when you're playing it, just think about that flow, because if you say it's good, I'll go play Metal Hellsinger. Otherwise, I probably won't make the time in my life for it. And Jose, as a fellow Thumper fan, I loved Thumper. I played it to the end.
Same.
I hope. I
This
wish.
looks
I
so
dream.
good.
I dream.
Like these visuals, like this is a trip for me. Like I don't like the just to be to be shown like eye goo. I like to actually have a gameplay that's also like locked in, and this looks
Haiku.
yeah.
I want to use that from now on.
Here's what I clean off my
do.
dog in the morning.
Yeah.
That's fellow dog owners. All right. So with that was a quick coverage of just some of the highlights off of the summer showcase. I recommend you go check out the full thing if you got the time. It was a nice condensed hour. I felt Upload did a fantastic job. They keep doing a great job as a news site for VR, but their composition and their quality is definitely they're succeeding in their experiments and their attempts. So hats off to Upload for giving us a nice summer showcase and for putting some wind back in VR sales, which it needs as we come into summer. With that said, Jose, what is in the box? What's in the bloody box for release?
Yo. All right. So this, I love picking games based on the theme. So this week's theme is some spooky puzzles and eerie stuff. So first one I have that I mentioned earlier was on the Upload Showcase, Infinite Inside, a mixed reality puzzle game. Collect shards, solve 3-dimensional puzzles, and assemble keys to unlock the mysteries of a secret society. So that's actually on Vision Pro. That's also on the Quest ecosystem, Pico, PSVR2, and Steam. And the interesting part is that PSVR2 and Steam versions are only VR. So
PSVR2.
take that however you will. They just noted that in their release. So
this looks interesting. I'm just looking at it again. I'm trying to remember because I remember seeing this, but I think this is the one that I was describing then. Okay.
Yeah, so you like jump into like a puzzle. So it's a little bit of both.
Yeah.
This one confused me a little because I was like, how does this? Yeah.
Yeah, so there's a lot of ingenuity in this design. It's really interesting. This is either going to hit. This is going to be a hit or miss. Like in terms of how like it feels to play, but the idea is really captivating.
The way I thought about it too is like it looks like very basic shapes, so I think it's going to probably perform pretty well. And I think if they went more complex than this, then maybe I would have been iffy about it. But it's just cement blocks and puzzle pieces. So
Yeah, and then they talk about having this kind of lightweight story backbone to the whole thing, and that just reminds me of like Eye of the Temple, where I couldn't give a feck about the story. If I'm honest, any backstory, it just doesn't matter. You know, it's like what you're there for the kind of experience. But again, this is another. We're seeing a lot of MR games, and I think it's because you know Meta's probably putting a lot of money into dangling out there. Hey, developers, develop an MR game. I doubt Sony or, you know, actually there isn't any. Is there any Sony PSVR2 experience that you need to pass through? No, right? They don't allow their pass-through camera to be used.
So that makes a lot more sense to what they stated. The PSVR 2 version and the Steam version are VR only.
VR only.
So that makes a lot more sense. So it's not mixed reality on non. So Pico, I guess, and Quest and Vision Pro.
The Vision Pro is locked. Yes. Yeah. Wait, hang on. I thought Apple Vision Pro doesn't allow developers access to the cameras for games.
I think they do. Oh, they do. They do.
Okay. I might be wrong there. Okay. There's something they don't, and it pisses devs off. I can't remember now. It's okay. All right. Yeah. Thanks. That was called what?
Inside? That one's Infinite Inside. Releases July 12th. No price listed, but yeah, pretty much all the major headsets. Vision Pro, Quest, Pico, PSVR 2, and Steam.
Cool.
Next one I have is Death Game Hotel. Play Death Game 2000, a gambling tournament taking place in a secret location in Far East Asia, where you risk not only your chips but your life as well.
We've seen this one before. We talked about this one.
Yeah, this one looks. Yeah.
We laughed about it. Yeah.
Oh. Yeah. Didn't this come out like 6 months ago or something then?
So it looks like it has a full release date now. So it releases on the Quest 2 and 3, July 11th.
Yeah.
That one's going to be $20 US, 16 pounds. They have a pre-order going on right now for $18 US, 14 pounds.
Okay.
So, you know, if you want to gamble I believe the wager on this is your limbs. But unfortunately, on the trailer, and this is, I don't know if they just got scared, but I wish that the trailer would have shown somebody wagering their limbs and losing it.
Yeah, because we showed it before that they did. Yeah.
Yeah, in the trailer, all they show somebody like vomiting. I was like, that's not enough. Like, show me like the person ripping their hand off or something.
See the dismemberment, damn it.
Yeah, like they're just crying blood. That doesn't mean anything. And the wager should be more. Like, I think they should allow like legal gambling. Like, I want to wager people's headsets.
That's such a weird game concept.
So strange.
Yeah.
So strange.
I mean, it's an anime-based game. There's a really big successful game called Danganronpa that's a lot similar to this, and maybe that's the kind of demographic they're going after. So, but yeah, that's Death Game Hotel, July 11th.
Game for gamblers.
Yeah, or get scared of gambling. Get scared straight from gambling. There we go. And the last one I have is the Exit 8 VR. Really short trailer. So I'll probably, I think I sent some gameplay to Rowdy also that he can just scrub through. But it's there's a style or genre that's been going viral. It's called liminal. I think it's called liminal spaces, which is like hyper realistic, scary mazes that look like maybe like bathhouses or the same tiling that you see like maybe in public restrooms.
Kind of stuff.
Yeah. So it's pretty much a puzzle where you have to kind of find the differences and you end up just getting stuck and lost in corridors.
Does everyone know that? Should we explain the concept of the back rooms, or do we assume that is?
I know my kids are all about it, but I actually don't know very much about that. Is this just like all I know is it's bad. There's like bad things happen to you in the back rooms.
Yeah, so you know no clip, the how you can go through walls. So imagine like human life having no clip and you accidentally just warp into an area that humans are not supposed to be in. It's very eerie, and you know that you're not in real life, but it looks real life. So that's kind of what the backrooms concept is all about.
It's based on this YouTube series that started. It was like I think a guy in film school or something who made this concept indeed of like, and it became this like video series of 3 or 4 videos. I think he even got picked up by a pretty big publishing studio to turn it into a Netflix series or like some kind of movie. Don't quote me on that. I don't know exactly what, but it definitely know he got picked up or something. And indeed, like what you described is like that, where you like no clip through like, you know, like an environment, and you get into the back rooms, and it has that like dingy kind of greenish, yellowish, kind of like yellowish tint everywhere. But it's like there's like, you know, creatures there as well, and there's like a couple of video series there, or a couple of videos that all like detail the back rooms. About people ending up in there or getting trapped there and not being able to get out and getting chased by monsters and stuff like that.
Well, I gotta say thank you guys for explaining that to me, because I had a very different assumption for the longest time. I was literally imagining when I heard Backrooms, I thought it was like underground like poker games in like a Peaky Blinders setting. I thought that's what the Backrooms was.
Awesome.
And I was like,
did you mention your kids were into the Backrooms concept? So you imagine your kids are into illegal gambling?
well, I was like, whatever, Backrooms like in Roblox or so. I was like, there's nothing that can hurt.
That's funny.
That's hilarious. Okay,
But yeah,
it's very much.
VR.
I think you would like it actually, Sim, because it's very much based on that. Like, I'll show you a short clip, like found footage, where they found like
yeah,
the.
that stuff is so good. I got
yeah.
rabbit holes with that shit on YouTube and SCP stuff. Like,
Yeah.
Yes. Oh,
Yeah,
don't
see-
get me started on SCP.
SCP is not so much something that I would be into. Like I it's not usually my flavor, but the other stuff you were talking about, Rowdy, is. So what am I even looking at? It's like, it's so weird.
Wait, you're not into SCP stuff?
Not so much.
Oh,
Not
man.
so much. There was a really awesome like VR experience. I remember one which was like it had Cthulhu and stuff in it, and you were like in this weird dried out ocean. There's some weird VR experiences that I've appreciated just because they're so weird. You know, like the utility room. I think the utility room is coming to PSVR2 soon. So for anyone who's like really into weird stuff, like you like Lost Highway or David Lynch films and stuff like that, then that's a great VR experience that's kind of down that same route. So SCP sometimes, but I need to be in the mood.
Yeah,
I heard a thump in my house while Rowdy was playing the Backrooms liminal spaces footage, and I was like, "The hell's happening?" Again.
Someone's
Your
here.
dog no clipping through the walls.
That's funny.
But yeah,
That's
that was
funny.
X8 VR. It's for Quest 2. It doesn't look like any other headsets yet, but releases on July 11th. $7 US, £6, and pre-orders are live right now for $6 US, and that's about £5. And yeah, those are the 3 games I selected this week. Want to go recap real quick? Infinite Inside, Death Game Hotel, and the Exit 8 VR.
That's cool. Thank you, Jose. I like when you come with themes as well. It's nice to kind of compartmentalize some of that stuff with a thematic kind of broccoli wrap. We've also got Steam Summer. I don't have to announce sales these days, but Steam Summer sales on. Let your wallet bleed. That as well. This is towards the end of the show, so I'm just going to say this podcast is live in front of a global audience every 2 weeks, every other Saturday, YouTube and Twitch, except for when these guys steal me to go play video games. We do timestamps afterwards and an audio version midweek for Spotify, iTunes, and SoundCloud. Chat, I just want to say I'm honored to broadcast alongside other honest, hardworking VR creatives. And for those in chat, I hope that your dreams come true and that whatever you're looking to get out of this technology, maybe not that war bit we covered earlier, that it makes you happy and it brings something to your life. So with that, thanks for coming along. Another FReality. We'll see you in a couple weeks. Goodbye for now. Ciao.
Bye-bye.